NECC week number 2 of Rainbow Six Siege kicks off and underway. It's the Fisher Falcons taking on Kettering Varsity. I'm Time Delight. Joined alongside me is the one and only John Commentate himself. Fellow, how you doing coming into our second week of play?
I'm doing great. I mean, this should be a game for the season or just a semester in general. We've got pretty much new bloods on the block going up against a veteran team of Kettering Varsity. We'll quickly take a look at that Kettering roster really quick and then move onward in through Fisher. Both these teams, we have a pretty good understanding of. Kettering, they've been around for such a long time. Almost a whole majority of their roster is now juniors, if not seniors at this point. They've
Mhm.
played in countless other collegiate leagues. So these are names that some people in the chat might actually know pretty well. You've got Bucka, Prismo, Derp, Amplify, and Trunk Mankey as well. Funny enough, all of them having the same majors as well, but all playing underneath the same banner. It's a force to be reckoned with, this team, I'd have to say, Dan.
Yeah, and on the contrary of that one, Fisher coming into this as the new blood, as you mentioned. While yes, they're the new blood to collegiate, not so much to Rainbow Six Siege as a game. You'll notice a few of these people as personalities in the T3 and 4 scene. Yali, notably the coach, a caster in the T3 and 4 scene as well. But the Fisher Falcons themselves, you have Beezer, Yali, as I mentioned, Maple, Cappy, and Robe. Now, I really want to highlight Beezer because Beezer, A, I've seen frag so many times, and B, I met alongside Cappy at the Charlotte Major. Both super cool people, and honestly, Beezer insane on the sticks.
Yeah, Beezer is such a personality. You could always see him on Twitter just raving about something random happening in his rank stack or what have you. It's always funny. And every now and again, you get to talk to him, and it's always a pleasant surprise at the end of the day. Hopefully, the map phase is going to be pretty pleasant as well. I know in the collegiate scene, you can tend to see a lot of default maps. People don't like getting out of their comfort
Ooh.
zone, especially in the beginning of a semester. But I think we're in here for a bit of a treat. Out of the 3 maps that are relatively new in this scene, we get 2 of them, that being Theme Park, picked by Kettering, and Border by the Falcons as well, with that deciding map as well of Cafe. Funny enough, a place that a lot of people hate to go, even though it's been in the comp pool for quite a while now, Dan.
I am part of the people that hate Cafe. We
It's
stand
grown on
Cafe
me.
haters around here. We support them. No, I feel like the two things I don't like about it is one, it's very one-dimensional. You play it vertically, that's how you play Cafe.
Yeah.
The second one is as an observer, or I used to be an observer, I hated that far wall where you can't actually see the entire map. It infuriates me, but that's besides the point. Theme Park, our first map, and this is something I noticed yesterday with Valorant as well, where teams are picking in sleeper maps, where you wouldn't usually expect a collegiate team at whatever level to go to. You'd look for more comfortability, but apparently they have a lot more prep than we'd think, at least at face value.
Yeah, and again, with not only Kettering being just a very old team in the collegiate scene, so they have the comfort of knowing what to expect and what surprises they can bring out. You could look at it across the pond as well for Fisher College, since they've been playing T3 and T4 for quite some time. They're also pretty comfortable in amongst themselves as to what to do. I believe we almost have the game up and ready to begin with
Mhm.
as well. But back to what I was saying, for Fisher College, again, they're a pretty well-versed team with one another. They've been playing with themselves for quite some time. So it shouldn't be that jarring to just step into a new environment because you kind of treat it the same as T4 and T3. But still, some expectations you are going to have to set for yourself, especially with a new meta on the horizon. I'd have to say this is probably one of the most trade-orientated metas we have seen in a very long time.
Well, Fisher starting off on that defensive side, the logos are switched. I promise they'll be switched in about 2 seconds. But Osa on the attack, banned first by Fisher. They do not want to deal with the shields. I have an inkling, considering our current lineup between the two squads, that Kettering I feel is going to be a little bit more strat oriented because they have more coordination around their team, whereas Fisher's going to be a little bit more frag heavy with Cappy and Beezer. That's my general inkling. I don't know if that's 100%.
Wouldn't be a bad assumption to make. I have to agree to a good extent, especially since although you are again used to playing in comp, there are some small things you're going to have to realize when moving into collegiate. But the bans so far all make sense here, except for maybe that target ban of the Osa, but she is still very good put in the right hands. You've got Maverick to force a little bit more challenging positions with that hard breach, unless you commit to bringing Thatcher, Mira as well to weaken some of that direct site pressure / extensions, and Valkyrie for some less intel denial as well. And starting out with almost a surprise pick, it's actually going to be the default selection of Armory and Throne, probably one of the easiest bomb sites to defend, as you can extend pretty comfortably up above. And if you're a team that tends to struggle with time management, you could really get caught lacking when it comes to that late round, and you still have to open up some hard walls into the site to make sure you don't funnel into
Attackers need to
Split or
locate
Dragon
and
Door,
defuse
for
as many
example. So,
bombs as they
not a bad
can.
option for Fisher to start out and get a really good feel as to how Kettering want to attack this map.
I also have to note the fact that there are 2 C4s available for Fisher, and one of them being wielded by the Bandit of Maple. I'm not sure how I feel about the Bandit pick nowadays, because at best you force an attacker repick onto somebody with those impact EMP charges, of which are actually more useful than nades at some points, and actually more common than nades between operators, because there are only 4 operators on the attacking side with grenades. Luckily, all 4 are available for the attacking squad today, as none of them have been banned. Usually not is the one that's banned.
5 seconds left.
But it's still a conversation point, and you say that's a little surprising. I also think we're going to see a spawn peek. Bees are looking to get aggressive. I do believe there's a drone on the outside of that. They're hopping on a default camera, looking to get aggressive out towards bumper cars, but instead they'll just back away and leave that ever so slightly impacted, and then die, as Amplify has domed them. Good night, sleep tight. Bees are gone first.
Not even too sure if that window was fully open or not, but just having the intuition that spawn peaks are pretty common on that spawn. Good entry kill for the ace, now shutting down one of your main roamers, and could probably grant a lot of map control early on. Because of that, the control hatch just gets opened up, and a drone is going in through cache as well. There is still a roam presence here up above, that being wielded by Yali, fun enough. The main coach for Fisher is actually stepping in as a player today. And the great thing about Azami, how many angles you can cut off for the offense, and how much you can stall, because it takes a long time to break these Kiva barriers, even when you're in the right place to get the job done. Already a minute has been burned off the clock, but Kettering are slowly collapsing in on this lone Azami, so sooner rather than later, she'll probably have to fall back, and just when I mention it, she'll do so.
Yeah, and that one note about the Azami is the fact that you have your environmental changes you usually see in the impacts, but the Azami does so in such a contrast of creating more an environment rather than taking away what is already there. The angle being held long drops Derp to about 75 HP or so, they'll be perfectly fine for the time being. Yali not so much, as they will indeed have to back away. They're down to just one kunai knife, of which the Kiva barrier will explode, and they will back away, but this top floor hold has been teared apart by Kettering, extremely efficient by them, getting a kill, most notably on Beezer's attempted spawn peek, and clearing out at least most of the top floor, all of it directly above site, in about 100 seconds or so, and, well, they find another on the Maple.
Yeah, the fallback is not being fully timed to full commit here for Fisher. Thankfully, Yali not too far away can get that trade. Good job of playing off of one of those contact to a certain degree and falling back at just the right time. You could maybe poke and prod around either lab or potentially barrel. Seems like Yali will opt for the former rather than the latter in this situation. Still plenty of time for Kettering to fall back down a floor lower and begin that execute, and still having, again, all that time to work with here. You can drone out a whole lot more, but it seems like for Kettering, they actually don't have info that Fisher has fully get up this top floor. That might lead to a problem when they eventually get ready for that execute that we mentioned earlier, Dan.
And we're down to the action phase of the action phase. With 35 seconds left, they're just now starting to make breach charges down towards that vertical angle. And it's taken them too long to do so. They had all this control earlier on in the round, yet have taken too long to try and push off of it. And Fisher are just not giving them the fights. Bucka, the first to fall later on in the round itself. Amplify with both of their Selmas towards this main double wall. Barely misses the shot across as Prismo's looking to push through the Dragon Door as well. Yali with a double kill in the round. The swing with the F2, able to find a kill back the other way. With just 6 seconds left, they have to start getting this diffuser down, but I don't know if they have it in their hand. Prismo the kill across, but I think they've forgotten about the diffuser. Illusion starts to get it down, but it's as the time expires. They've just taken too dang long, and Yali makes sure it's an impossibility. Fisher on the defensive side waste enough time and pick up the round 1 victory.
The exact same issue I had mentioned, Dan, revealed itself all the way in round number 1, and it was just not having enough time to clear out that extension on the first floor. Having the option to fall back, Yali was able to find a couple of more frags and really keep a good chunk of Kettering at bay. And one interesting thing as well, having that rotate hole into Blue Barrel, that way you cannot comfortably plant in the back of Armory, was really solid, as Kettering had their hands tied when even trying to enter the bomb site. Sure, they were still able to work their way in through yellow, but when your only other attacker is not pushing with you and they're forced to work their way in through dragon, they not only have to worry again about that potential site presence slash a retake, but there is also the option of someone just playing right outside of the bomb site to just quick peek you when they have info of you entering the room and just shutting you down instantly. That's pretty much what happened for Fisher, and they are able to hold on despite losing 2 bodies in an early portion of that roam game. They're still able to hold on quite strong during the anchor phase, and for Kettering, the biggest thing is just keeping that tempo throughout the entire round. You had a fantastic entry onto Beezer, one of the main roamers of this defense, yet you still struggled a lot with dealing with that secondary emphasis when moving across the other half of the top floor.
I feel like Yali clutched twice over in this, as much as I hate to admit it, because I actually know her and she's probably going to watch this pod back and hear what I have to say. Yeah, but honestly, she did a fairly good job in 2 different instances of that round. Number 1, really delaying the push and faking the fact that Fisher is still on that top floor, delaying the Kettering attack. And the second one is splitting up their attention, not only taking out Bucka off-site, but then pushing around that exact same angle later on, again faking the fact that they'd fallen back, just to find at least a second down onto Illusion, who didn't technically die, but I'll give Yali the triple kill, as much as I hate to say it. A clean play by that Azami, as they will again pick up a double and the round victory for Fisher. But we'll move on into this one. Across this building and onto the top floor, again you'll see them lock down initiation, this time with a little bit more pressure. They want to try and hold as much offsite as they can for this bedroom daycare defense, and understandably so, but it could cost them later on.
And they have a lot more supportive utility as well. Definitely putting a lot more into the stock of trying to hold this extension is a little more valuable when you have the top floor as the bomb site as well. Good opening kill for Maple, just playing that long range with the DMR. Able to keep Kettering at a very safe distance. And now, not having as much soft range destruction can definitely allow these Kivas and deployable shields to linger for just a bit longer. But now, the Kivas that are left in place are the only ones left, as Yali ends up getting traded by Bucka, and slowly but surely, Kettering, they're making their way closer and closer in towards Initiation office, and now your player in Initiation has been injured.
I think they should be able to pick up the Jaeger, though. There's no information as to the fact that Robe has been downed, and they're looking to push off of it, but they're just taking too long to do so. As they see, Illusion gets the kill around the deployable shield. That is just such unfortunate timing there for the defense. So close, yet so far, unfortunately. That MP comes through, but Beezer swing just the same around the backside of the breach, playing double kills on it with the door as well. It's down to Prismo in a 1v3. They shoot out the Prisma, as ironic as it sounds, which gives them away. And with just 40 seconds, they seemingly cannot stop shooting said Prismas.
And unfortunately, just in a rock and a hard space, potentially expecting a flank. But even if that were to happen, I can imagine a trade would be pretty straightforward here for Fisher. Yep, good tag team there. Beezer to get the confirmation on the lone twitch. And overall, the idea for Kettering, I believe before wanting to work their way in through control completely, they wanted to remove any presence near office, for example, and try to get a cutoff over in waiting room as well. That way they could better isolate the player inside of initiation. However, because they were so focused on that one portion of the map, when they ended up rotating back into control, Beezer still had all of this utility to work around. Sure, the Thatcher EMP'd a boatload of it, but the shield was still alive and well, and it was only the Thatcher for a good period of time, again, allowing the alibi to swing and take those one-for-one engagements when pressured enough. And you still had people waiting over by the waiting room double door, for example, to make sure that no one could cross in through that desk room to get a double attack in that one portion of the map. Again, really good job at Fisher for isolating these small mistakes being made by Kettering. And funny enough, it's again the early game that works out really well for them on their attacks, but during the mid-round presence, they seem to just kind of hit a brick wall and don't have the right tools to break that wall.
Well, we call it the old hurry up and wait. They speed up in the early part of the round just to do a whole lot of nothing later on. And unfortunately, some of it's in their control, some of it not so much. Beezer, with that swing we saw in the replay, thank you by the way,
5 seconds left.
on that swing, a swing through the breach as I mentioned, but splitting the attention of the ace and completely changing their point of attack is something you don't usually expect in those 1v1 or 1v2 scenarios, mid-round as well. And aforethought from Beezer to pull that off in such a drastically changing scenario, as not only the round was changing, but their environment as well. That's what makes a very smart player, mechanically gifted, and happens to be fairly smart around as well. I was talking about these early on. There they are.
Just kind of doing their thing, so it seems. The MX4, still a really fun gun to use, put in the right hand, so always nice to see Alibi in play from time to time. And it seems that yet another extension off the back of these shields and key barriers are in play once again for Fisher College, except they were expecting more of a, I suppose, more direct clear heading in through cache, so they'll most likely have to adapt a little bit to deal with this cafe over clear implemented by Kettering. So far, info being gathered. Kettering should probably begin to take a little more map control before Fisher can adapt, and it seems like Dirt will lead the charge in that once again, not on the Zofia, but this time instead on the Ayana. Just once again, double checking, making sure no one's working their way up through arcade stairs, and although that one portion that may be clear, Maple is still trying to work his way up yellow, but a great opening kill for Dirt nonetheless on the Beezer.
Yeah, now Maple has to back away. The information's there from the drone. The spray, not so much. They shoot the railing, and Maple thought they got the kill. They were incorrect in their assumption. Yali gets the refrag, but it's 2 for 1 from Derp, dropping not only Beezer early on in the round, but Maple on that yellow stairs roam, giving Kettering, again, an early round man advantage. But here's the mid-round where they really need to start pushing forward, and now, more than ever, is the time to do so.
It currently seems like for Kettering, they're just trying to reset, make sure they don't lose any extra bodies, and once again, just have active information. Now they're getting ready to start to set up that proper execute, getting these Rotero drones in to break any last-second utility that Fisher could play off of. But Robe, a good swing, takes down the case player. Mabukka's good for 2, almost spots Cappy on the retreat, but it's not going to be that lucky in that engagement. All up to the Mute here, working their way back through bathroom, but Illusion is waiting with great patience, having that long angle made by the Selma charge. Finally, Kettering get on the board after having a relatively stable reset on that attack phase.
Oh no, Maple shot the railing like 4 different times.
And they missed
F in chat for that one.
Yeah,
that's
tragic.
That's unfortunate. I do have to question one thing. We saw it in the replay. Yali died inside of Connector. I want to know why you play that angle. I understand the general idea of trying to play through your own rotates around towards the opposing site, but you're so exposed from the daycare door. It's so easy for you to fall from that close left angle. Yeah, you had the crossfire being held by a Robe, who did indeed find that first kill, but we saw the second angle just not be held. That's the reason Bucka found the first. They were lucky enough to find the second under Robe. But it's an odd question I have to pose. Why play in such an open angle when you don't have as much coverage as at least you'd expect?
It might have honestly been just not wanting to overcomplicate things, I suppose. Maybe they were still wanting to make sure that no one could cross over in through waiting double to get into, like, bunker, for example, to get the initiation wall opened up. And instead of having someone fully rotate in through control, because that takes a lot of time, they wanted to just have someone near that rotate so they could deal with both the pressure from both sites, potentially. But that just not working out in the slightest for Fisher. Bucka, really good heads-up play to make sure no one could cross as safely near that angle, granting a lot more breathing room for the offensive side. But now they have to go and attack the whole map once again. We saw this beforehand where Kettering were relatively slow but successful on this roam clear, especially since Amplify caught Beezer with his pants down essentially. And now the change up to make sure they deal with this roam game even faster is having more active information like Prismo on the Jackal and starting out some of their attackers over near Cafe, I believe. We just caught a small glimpse of that. So Fisher might have the chance to potentially fall back earlier as they don't want to go for direct challenges. But I guess Yali wants to prove us wrong today, Dan.
Luckily, does not die early. The C4 pre-placed, the timing unfortunately incorrect there for Maple as they already expire. Possibly the best secondary utility in the game. Yali's still trying to get aggressive. There is a Kiva barrier down in front of them, which they can play off of, that has now been removed. The aggression calculated now from Yali as she does not want to over-aggress. A well-placed nade, but it will not do any damage. Yali makes it out in time. Unfortunately, just not cooked enough there from Derp. And speaking of cooked, that's exactly what happens. Maple cooks them, finds the kill with that Vector.
Unfortunately, not working fast enough off that information. Once again, Kettering just slowing down. They understood that the side of Cash was up for grabs. They could work their way into a waiting room to help out the rest of their offensive side, but it just took far too long. Illusion eventually gets rid of one of those roamers that was up above moments ago, that being Yali, but still, about a minute 20 to work with, and you still have, again, that exact same light extension, but now 2 defenders playing near both lab and storage. That could be chaos if Kettering do not acknowledge this like we saw in round number 1.
I don't know who to favor with 60 seconds left. You can see the Kettering are making significantly better strides than we saw prior, already getting these breach charges down, making sure they can play the vertical angles earlier on, about 25 seconds earlier than last time out. The Rotera drone does not drone out Maple, but they do indeed give away their own information. Beezer towards storage as well should be cleared out of position, but again, Fisher still playing off-site, and as again we get to the action phase of the action phase, Kettering do not have this immediate off-site pressure nor control in their favor. Bucka is the closest one to it, and they're still about a mile away in terms of siege measurements from the site itself. Maple unfortunately dies and gets down to, at minimum, a technical 2v4 with 25 seconds left. But look at that Vulcan canister. Hold the phone here, fellow.
Beezer as well going in for the swing, just barely gets the refrag, but there's only one player on site. They could just dive bomb Rogue and potentially win this. They have the Vulcan canister, but that's really it. And can they guard from both Dragon and Barrel? It doesn't seem like it. Amplify catches them off guard, and Beezer is forced to go on the retake. Amplify getting down this diffuser. Potential 2 versus 1. Is anyone watching this properly? Doesn't seem like it, but Beezer's got no idea of that as well. Post-plant situation, everyone on the side of Kettering is now gun up, and Beezer misses an opportunity to put himself back in that 2 versus 1. No potential way to get back into sight properly. The Vulcan canister traps him outside. He's just looking in through the glass, wondering how exactly he got in this position, and he now has to fully rotate down in through split. An absolute death trap. Beautiful shot onto Bucka, but it's still a 2 versus 1, and another Vulcan canister detonates in front of him. He's on 5 health. He can't even walk through it, and he surely has no time left at this point. 8 seconds left. You need 7, and he is just simply saving the KD at this point, but you really can't blame the guy. He was in a tough position to come back from, but Kettering, once again, capitalizing on the lack of a site presence in that technical 4v2 on site, granted them good access of it, and allowed themselves to get pretty comfortable in Armory and Throne as well.
This is proactively playing off of your information. Beezer getting this kill gives away the fact that they are well and truly off-site, and with said information, they know they have a 3v1 if they push together. That's exactly what happens, and Beezer on this attempted refrag tried to bring it back. They tried. Unfortunately, they did indeed fail. Kettering a very well-coordinated push, and well-timed one at that. Yeah, you lose a player to Beezer who was around that bathroom storage side, but they still are able to take the site, get the diffuser down safely, and protect said diffuser in a post-plant scenario, and in response, Fisher are going to go back to Armory Throne. This time around, I have a general inkling, don't ask me why here, fellow, that they may play a little bit more on the site itself.
Well, their lineup, I would say, doesn't really scream that. They have a lot of very, I'd suppose, passive information. You've got the Banshees, you've got the Razor Blooms as well, which, sure, you could put them in sight because there's technically only 2 entrances that are going to be there on paper, but I feel like using them up above to make sure no one could get a better opening from the top floor working their way down would be the better idea, and at least that's how the Banshees are being used here by Yali, potentially expecting more range destruction since Azami has been brought pretty much every single round in this matchup so far. So I think the idea for Fisher is that they just want to get even more aggressive on this early round by playing off of these info-based gadgets, and then if they need to fall back, they will, but it's more or less a last-ditch attempt to try to salvage the round and keep that man advantage. They want to get aggressive, and they want to take these gunfights with some sort of advantage.
Yali's going to do so, this time with the Malusia, I believe, as you mentioned. But the real question here for Yali is, how do you play as aggressive as you have in prior rounds without that ability to edit your own environment to give yourself a favorable position?
Exactly.
No kunai knives for Kiba barriers, which is an odd position for Yali to be in, considering that's what she's been so good with playing around in these previous few rounds, but I suppose she still wants to play forward. There's a Banshee on this close ball, of which will not be taken out. That Rotera drone misses, and that Banshee will be perfectly safe. Yali not so much towards Arcade, as she's down to about 45, now 0 HP. Derp takes care of her from the cafe swing, and Kettering once more find an opener. This is not looking good again for Fisher.
And the first half is not even happened yet. It's still 1:40, and most of the roam game has now fallen back, if not all of it, actually. It's once again that exact same light extension, and we did get to see it for a brief moment with that top-down view that Kettering have gotten substantially better at droning out this late lurk round presence, and especially now that they've cleared out the roam game at a very fast time, is going to give them more room to once again reset. And we saw that all the way back on round number 3, how effective Kettering can be with that man advantage and given the ability to reset. So really, this seems to be a solid round for them on paper, especially since they've already attacked this bomb site 3 times now.
Yeah, and every time they attack the bomb site, it's getting better. They're improving off previous woes, and that's the most important part. It's flexibility and dynamics around your play. They figure out what's going on around them and are able to adapt what their attack does to meet the expectations of what's brought forward. There is a trade, a 1-for-1 in all fairness, but Fisher still with a man disadvantage as it's just not looking good for them. The Thorn down, yes, she has all of her utility down, but it's still Kettering with so much outside pressure. Yeah, Fisher in this 3v4 have all 3 players on or directly around site, but Kettering can really condense them, and it looks like it's about to happen.
Not much time left here for Kettering to get this show on the road, but they do get the back wall into yellow opened up. Potential plant spot if they have the manpower to do so, but Beezer racks up 2, once again being a major asset in this round. All 3 kills go the way of the alibi. The mute gets shut down though. Illusion could maybe work his way into sight, but he's the last one standing. Beezer having a Hail Mary round, so to speak. Robe denies the ace, but Fisher altogether will guarantee that round. Still holding on strong as they did not try any monkey business off the site.
I believe this is where we kick Robe from the game for stealing the ace away from Beezer with such little time left on the clock, because that was rude, to say the very least. But a clean round from Beezer, exactly what they were looking for. They played their fragging potential while also playing cautious and not taking overtly aggressive gunfights when they did not have to. And the most important part about that is they were still able to bring back that man disadvantage from what, again, was a 5v4 and then a 4v3 to the end round, playing long angles and using the MX4 Storm to the fullest potential possible. A note, by the way, Yali goes back onto the Azami as bedroom or bunk and daycare is chosen once again. This time around, I feel they're going to get significantly more aggressive because, again, they have the kunai knives available.
This has probably been her best operator so far in the first half, and in general, it just forces a lot out of your opponents, especially with there being significantly less grenades this season than there were last season. You're kind of forced to bring out at least one of these 2 ranged soft destructors like an Ash or a Zofia that can also bring a lot, as in potential flank watch with claymores or breaching charges as well for extra vertical play. So it definitely does force the hand of Kettering to an extent, but at the same page that Yali's comfortable on the Azami, Baka is very complacent on the Ash. He can do a lot of heavy lifting, put in the right element, and Derp as well. We have seen him go on the Zofia and do pretty well on that entry roll, but now he's opting for grenades, which is pretty much the same thing soft destruction wise. You can still help break those shields and key barriers, but you also have better info, so that can also be pretty helpful in the late round when you might potentially be low on drones, since you've used all of them clearing out these extensions that Fisher have been pretty tried and true in so far in this first half. And speaking of that info, already detecting another shield in the same place that it was last time bunk was an option for Fisher, so maybe this time we'll see a bit of a faster clear by Kettering, as if they had gotten a better position in control earlier, they might have had a better time clearing out the rest of this map.
Well, Prismo again giving them the opener, and unfortunately it's Yali to fall first. The aggression was correctly calculated. She did try and play forward. Unfortunately, she fell once more. 3 and 5 on the half, not worst case scenario there for the Azami, but it still is off the back of opening deaths, and that's the issue we're seeing time after time for Fisher. Well, yes, they do have the lead, they just are not picking up these opening kills. Unfortunately, Feed has died, apparently, John. I'm not 100% sure what's going on here. I am frozen.
We are currently lost in time. That's what's going on. I think we're gonna head back to the cameras maybe for a little while, and you know, have a civil talk. I just want to have a talk. That's all. Hey guys, we're back. Yeah, funny enough, although we've had a lot of opening deaths go the way of Fisher, they've been pretty strong at the trade department. And again, I think that just comes with the general synergy that these guys have had. They're used to having Beezer, again, just have a riot in the first minute, and sometimes he just gets destroyed. So like, okay, we're used to this. We can work a trade, especially with the meta right now. I mentioned this earlier. There's a lot of potential for just straight out 50-50 gunfights, no matter what side of the map you're on. So you could easily work a 4v2 position all the way into a potential 2-on-2 position, or even a 2v3, for example, as well. So there's a lot of potential for you to get a lot done, even when you're at a disadvantage. But I think we've unfortunately had someone go dark on the opposite side of the broadcast.
Yeah, and the opposite side of the Atlantic Ocean as well, unfortunately unnamed, our observer, who's been doing an amazing job, as has Pika, producer. Awesome people. They're both across the pond, not any of the Great Lakes, the Atlantic Ocean itself. Unfortunately,
really
even though it's a very big pond, all right? I like to make the joke every so often, mainly when I work with anybody from Great Britain. But our observers lost connection to the internet. They just hopped on their phone and told us that they had lost connection. So what we're going to do is we're going to send it to a break, and then when we come back, hopefully not only the internet is back, but our game is as well. We'll see you then.
And we are back. We apologize for the prolonged delay, but finally, our observer unnamed has returned from his prolonged exposure away from the PC, and we can continue this game between Kettering Varsity versus Fisher College, heading back into round number 7, actually. So we didn't get to see the very end of round number 6, but it looks to be a 3-3 half now off of that. So that would imply Kettering won the last round on their attack. So things could end up turning pretty equal still, since I thought both these teams were a pretty good yin and yang against each other, at least in the first half. So hopefully that can replicate now going into round 7.
And a massive shout out to the teams, by the way, for pausing and not moving on in this game without actually us, because sometimes that happens. But, you know, Yali, also a caster, happens to know that when observer exits stage left, game pauses. So everybody paused, we're good to go. They didn't actually play any rounds off stream other than the one that we exited stage left during. But into the game itself, Bunks and Daycare is the first site of choice here for Kettering rather than Throne and Armory as we saw for Fisher. And we see a little bit more of a horizontal hold, but away from initiation, which I'm a little surprised about, I have to say here, fellow. But it's not something that I'm too surprised about. I'm a little surprised.
Attackers recovered the diffuser.
Overall, the extension looks just about the same. Maybe you're going to have a little bit of a lighter presence over near initiation since you don't have a rotate to fall back on, but you still have that presence over by office, for example. Interested to see how exactly Illusion plays on the Tachanka, as with those Shanikas, you can pretty much mask off a good portion of the map. So I wonder to see if he'll save that for later to use it towards the end of the final minute, for example, or if we're going to have Illusion actually be a little more proactive here with that rush knockdown in their scope. 40 seconds have now elapsed, and Fisher are looking to go for the stock standard attack of getting over near control, working their way through cash, and even having Yali on the ace playing on that back break room repel. Sometimes if there's no wall denial on that double set near break room, you can get that opened up and have a really long sightline to cut off everything, looking down from that break room window repel all the way into the top of yellow stairs. So a really potent angle put in the right hand.
Setting up a sequential breach.
Angle being held. I don't know where they just got shot from without actually seeing anybody, but it seemed delayed to say the very least. They are perfectly fine though. Maple already opening things up around this initiation side, the spray not landing, and Maple apparently not seeing where they're shot from. It is such a tiny angle, it's such a difficulty to try and deal with. You can see how far away that is indeed. I think that was that who I thought it was? I think that's Derp playing close with the P10 who took that shot. That is an angle and a half. Can we go first person on Derp seeing where they were shooting from initiation? Because that was such a long angle from the top of yellow.
He just has the lineup. Interested to see him run the P10 and not the DMR as well, since there are a lot of long angles you can take, and chip damage is fantastic, especially since Finka isn't in play as much as she normally is, and Yali just having the better gun for that range just shuts him down immediately. Good opening kill for the ace, and Fisher College, although short on time, at least they've got the man advantage, and most of this extension now dealt with besides the Jaeger, who will persist.
The nade misses. Robe does not know about the aforementioned Jaeger. Bucka sitting inside of the vault. The jump up and over. There is that the alibi, not the alibi, the Gemini replicator, my apologies, coming through that Surya gate, taking it out, and allowing this push to come through. But as you mentioned, Fisher are running out of time. It was just 30 seconds left. Yeah, they found an opening kill, and it is indeed Yali to come out on top of it, contrary to what we saw in the first half of play. But they're just taking too long, and because of it, they're being torn apart from two different angles, and the Jaeger, of which they've known about for seemingly ever, has just barely been taken care of, and they're still sitting inside of that vault.
And those Shamikas as well now into play. So much can be wasted. The cage player now dropped dead by the hands of Bucka once again with that 416. Red pings darting out, partner, as Illusion just holds strong with this nasty angle. Spots out the ace, but is not quick enough to pull the trigger, and that could be an opportunity. It's just Bucka all of a sudden. He's still off the bomb site. He gets rid of Maple though, but Yali gets off the plant. An even 1-for-1, but the timer now favoring the offensive side, and Bucka a little short on that information. Maybe not fully aware if Yali has fallen back or is hiding in some sort of rat angle. For all we know, they could maybe be on their rappel as well. Again, those Selma charges could have been brought down on that break room wall, but we currently have no idea about it. 20 seconds to go. Still plenty of time, but the drone now indicating Bucka is in the bomb site to allow Yali to play a little bit better in the position. The sound call is made, and Bucka cannot get off the shift key quick enough. A great recovery by Fisher, and it seemed to be a great start for Kettering, but they just dropped the ball, and an opportunity was spotted by not only Yali, but Maple as well.
I don't know how in the world Fisher come out on top of that round. There's like 14 seconds left. There's still Bucka holding down a long angle. Illusion was alive with the Shamikas on the board, and yet everything collapses. It was a 2-for-nothing trade. From the 3v2 in a disadvantageous position to the 2v1, Yali finding the all-important kill to allow her to put that diffuser down, and Bucka being off the site meant, well, they really couldn't do anything about it. They did find one and made it a 1v1, but the positioning was just better, and Yali so patient to just wait for that push to come through. No reason to overswing when the time is in your favor. That's what we saw from Kettering. They didn't swing, unfortunately they died, and Fisher take advantage of the time in their favor and walk away with the round win. Fisher has won both of the opening rounds of each half.
And I liked the change-up by Fisher as well to realize that although they would probably prefer to get rid of Bucka in that spot since they're clearing out the cache, they eventually have to give it up because they were just continuing to funnel into this stronghold of that little divot inside of Office with all this utility that although they have the right tools to actually, get rid of it, they can't all be bundled up in that same spot without being susceptible to the long-range angles that Kettering were holding to help enable Bucka to stay in that one position, especially since Gnome was working up yellow. The lack of that first floor presence almost messed up Fisher completely, but again, Maple just spotting out this golden moment to work his way in through waiting and just start laying down the law. Really granted a good second chance there for Fisher, on top of Yali once again getting down that defuse before Illusion could react in time. Now starting out with that advantage once again, like you had mentioned, Dan, they opt to go for the exact same clear, but it is a different site, so a little more has to be expended on this top floor.
At this point, we see something that we saw for Fisher, where they do indeed have to clear out this top floor roam. The spray from Yali unsuccessful, but they just want to circumvent that top floor room. Already you're seeing the Selma's being thrown through, opening up this main door, main wall, as Yali just barely missing the angle. Illusion just proning on the backside of Throne. And again, no reason here for Kettering to over-aggress, but the main issue they now run into is that off-site pressure can come through without direct lines of sight because they've been created. Bucka finds the opener with that 9x9 on Dorobi, so that Iana taken care of early on in the round once more. A lot of your fragging power gone, but now so is Bucka. That's the trade they were looking for, and Beezer finding Derp before that wall's dropped means now Fisher have such an advantage. Not only a 4v3, but 90 seconds on the clock and so much map control.
Yeah, the SAS power duo just cleaning up the rest of that roam game, and now it's just a site presence here for Kettering. Maybe some of these Capcan traps could come into play, but I could assume a good chunk of them have been distributed on that roam extension, so maybe not, especially if Yali just charges on in, playing a very risky game of trying to get that 1-for-1, not fully aware if someone's in the back of that throne room, but instead they rotate. A smart decision to make. They can now open up yellow and weaken some of this crossfire potential here for the rest of Kettering, and they're still at the disadvantage. Fisher could just simply play for trades and still win this round if they get the right openings.
Prismo holding this throne corner, and as you see Fisher start to aggress onto the site itself, Yali, I believe their gun barrel has been spotted. They are well aware of the fact that this ace is just waiting. Amplify on the far side, the TCSG of their own, but it really has to be a coordinated push, and Prismo's there for the killing and just shutting them all down. Low HP on both players looking to push through. Cappy dropped as well. Maple off site, dies to Illusion's MP5K, and the Fisher Falcons are torn apart as they push through. The Bulldogs really taking control of the angles they were locking down, and I think Fisher just took too long.
I would actually agree with that to an extent, because that gave Kettering more time to obviously again reset. That's been a big talking point, especially on Theme Park, a very big map that can kind of ruin your whole strat if you tend to be a bit more complacent on your attacks. But for Fisher in general, I think just cutting some small corners there, not fully preparing to attack from multiple angles, not getting any vertical down as well, definitely seemed to be a major issue. Once they had dealt with the roam game, they just solely focused in on the site, but it was only from one direction. No one was trying to work their way in through split to better deal with anyone in the back of Throne. I don't even think they were able to get that yellow wall fully opened up. I think someone was able to trick it, or they just ignored the yellow wall being opened up as a whole. They all just funneled in through the double wall that two separate defenders were watching in the back of throne room for maintenance. So there wasn't really a good option for Fisher except just to win their gunfights, but they're the ones making the first move, giving Kettering plenty of time to react off of that. And so far, I think we've seen a
5
pretty
seconds
similar
remaining.
pattern of Fisher of just trying to be way too, I suppose, basic
Attackers are moving out
on
to
their
locate a
attacks.
bomb and
And although they might start out with their guns being hot, eventually they slow down almost to an extent of what we saw Kettering do on their first half.
Attackers have dropped
But
the
it's just,
bomb
it's a
diffuser.
lot more, I guess,
Attackers recovered the
diluted for
diffuser.
Fisher.
Yeah, and the one note I also have to bring forward is that both Selmas were used to create 2 different points of entry on that main wall, but it can easily be
Yeah.
held down by that perpendicular angle that we saw Prismo playing, alongside the fact that they were vaulting in, rather than just crouch walking or walking through, giving them a significant disadvantage, because when you're vaulting, you have a terrible accuracy on your weapon. Not only can you not ADS, but when you don't ADS and you're vaulting through, your spray pattern is, I think the word's very, very bad. Maple, very, very lucky to be alive, as they use the sledgehammer to open things up. Derp was trying to take out a possible breach charge, but just took out a little bit of Maple's HP.
Thankfully still alive to potentially aid in any of these extensions. Still having those grenades, pretty potent, put in the right hands, especially having 2 sets. Definitely something you don't see all the time. And with the EMPs, you would really hope that they could probably diminish Bucka's position, especially since we don't have the Surya gates this time in play. That wasted a lot of time for Fisher College because they had to pretty much juggle between a Surya on the bathroom door and the other one on the side office double barricade as well. So although they had the EMPs to break down those ADSs, there was still plenty of counterplay for Kettering as a whole. But now they've got crossfires established. They're working their way in through initiation from the control side. So really, they should have Bucka on lockdown, especially if they can destroy that shield.
Bucka, speaking of which,
Tough.
gets the first onto Beezer. Down goes that Thatcher early. One of the 2 SAS operators are gone. Our Brits in the production room probably aren't that thrilled about the outcome of that gunfight to open things up. But Kettering, again, opening with kills. And Fisher, with seemingly no answer on this site, leaves me mildly concerned, I have to be completely honest with you. But last time around, they just pushed into, what, 3 versus 5 or 3 versus 4 with just no time left over, and it was just so clean for them to push forward. This time, easier said than done.
Overall, not the best clear once again. It's, like I mentioned, that same complacency, doing the exact same thing we saw last time on Bunk, except Fisher could not find an opportunity to penalize Kettering on this roam extension. Once again, no one playing on that first floor. Funny enough, no Nook presence either. We can probably talk about that a little bit deeper into the round, but we're currently still in the midst of it. Derp racks up a triple before they get taken down by Yali, but it's a 1 versus 4. She has to ace, and she is currently trapped inside of initiation with Hellfire brewing around her. She can't even enter the bomb site if she wanted to, but at least she can still land her shots. Down goes Amplify. Still 3 defenders left to find, and Bucka, still sitting in the exact same spot he started in on this round, will finish in it. And Kettering, once again, doing quite well on their defensive extensions. And like I had brought up for a brief moment here, Dan, hate to go long, but the significant lack of adaptability by Fisher, that's what's costing them these attacking rounds. And in particular, forgetting about the first floor, not having a Nook, for example, maybe try to go up yellow stairs while someone could attack from Cafe or maybe play on the hatch. That's what is allowing Kettering to have these very default and rather passive defensive holds
Attackers need to
just
locate
in
and
one
defuse
spot
as many
because
bombs as they
Fisher
can.
are just attacking that one spot, and that's it for the most part. If they don't adapt in any which way throughout the rest of the second half, we could see Kettering easily win this match.
Now, if you went long and then said something that was just blatantly incorrect, I'd be upset. But all I heard was facts. That was just
Real.
facts across the board. And I have to be completely honest with you, I was noting from Kettering, they were very dynamic on their attacking side. We talked about this in the first half of play, albeit it was about 25 minutes ago because of our unfortunate tech issues, but they were so dynamic on the attacking side. Fisher really haven't been. While, yeah, they won the first round, I'm going to give that up to a combination of a little bit of chance and a whole lot of gun skill. They really haven't had the prep in each round to deal with this Kettering defense. Notably, you can talk about Bucka just sitting in a vault time after time, but it's really up to them to try and clear out this far hold if they want to have any shot later on in these rounds.
I think I remember talking with Yali for quite some time, as again, she is like the main coach for Fisher, more or less trying to play it for the quote-unquote long game, since this one group of people are going to have a lot of time to get used to playing with one another and having that time to develop as a proper, collegiate dynasty. So that definitely does give a major advantage here to Kettering, as they've had that time to grow already. Like I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, most of these players are, juniors and seniors. They've all been good friends for quite some time, so they have that chemistry put in the right aspect. And it seems like, for Fisher, they are actually trying to change things up to a slight degree. They are attacking from the first floor off the very rip, and with Bonk and Office being pretty much the same two bomb sites, they're literally arm's length away from each other. It's pretty much the same dynamic, except again, Fisher just slightly changing up the process. They're still dealing with the extension first and foremost, as Cafe is a little bit farther away from the bomb site in comparison to when it's Bonk, but at least they are trying something somewhat different.
And, well, you're talking about the chemistry. Amplify, I was about to say, is the main reason they have that chemistry, is they're a chemical engineering major, but they're also dead, so they'll have to bring the chemistry from the cameras for the time being. Kettering losing the opening pick, as the attacking side has been significantly favored in opening duels thus far today, notably with Kettering on the first half, really finding early frags, but now with Fisher, it's a doubled up man advantage. Beezer dropping Derp, a heavy instance of fragging on this defensive side, gone early. Bucka shoots out the drone and will have to back away with the information as to their whereabouts well and truly known, and Kettering retreating to the site early-ish on in this round with a significant man disadvantage, leaves him on, well, a whole lot of a back foot, and Beezer trying to take another gun.
Thankfully, a minute left to go still for the offensive side. Kettering, they still have a good chunk of utility. It's just the players. That's the only concerning part, is they're still at a major disadvantage. That's where the trades come into play. Prismo now taken care of. At least your main stall potential is alive, but as I say that, the caster curse rings in true. Yali will get rid of the Tachanka, leaving just Bucka left alone on the island of Bathroom. Still, could maybe work this out, but it seems like Fisher are well aware that Bucka is on the opposite side in through Office. They'll opt to plant in through Initiation, forcing him to fully rotate, granting a post-plant position now for Fisher. They can easily just sit back and look pretty in a 4 versus 1. They even have info on Bucka as well. This would truly be a tragic moment here for Fisher if they were to lose this round. That's how heavily it's stacked in their favor. Yellow pings darting out as well. I'm pretty sure favoring the offense. I don't know who be playing there as an attacker, as Bucka now replaces himself in through Cash. And yeah, this just seems like an invaluable moment for him. Not much left to try to accomplish here. Maybe could work a couple of really nice shots. We've seen him land some pretty cool hits from the past on this Jaeger, but no, Beezer in a ratty prone angle will take care of those sole survivor for Kettering, and Fisher once again get back on the board for their second half.
And you're seeing some unfortunate fallacies from Kettering here, where it's losing gunfights early on in rounds. I was talking about this earlier on, by the way, where Kettering would be the team that would almost certainly be more centered around their strategies and have them work out for it, but Fisher would be able to tear that apart with just straight up gun skill. Well, yes, you've seen a decent bit of prep thrown through. I feel like the lack of ability to switch up what you need to do on the attacking side was hurting the Fisher Falcons. Now no longer the case. A well-placed nade from below in the previous round from Maple to open up the said round. And Kettering on this defensive side, really not switching anything up after they were red early on. That's what cost them. And that was the first time they played that site as well. They had not gone there thus far in this half, yet Fisher were able to snuff out what was up and shut it down because of it.
And now with Kettering back on their comfort sites of Armory, and unless they want to surprise me and go lab, I would assume Bunk and Daycare would be on round number 12. This should be a theoretical win for them unless Fisher end up adapting, and their team composition hasn't changed for a bit. So I could imagine if Fisher potentially work some of those early entries, they might try to focus less on the top floor and try to speed up that overall execute into the bomb site, which ended up costing them greatly as they weren't fully prepared to hit the site from multiple angles, and they all just ended up funneling in through maintenance. But perhaps this time they could wise up just a bit and potentially try to get that full top to bottom clear that you almost always see when attacking on Theme Park, no matter what bomb site it tends to be. But it's only the first 30 seconds, really anything could happen. And I think Fisher, at the very least, they still want to get this maintenance wall opened up off the rip, and then potentially fondle a bit with that top floor.
I like the priorities for Fisher. They know what they want to do, and that's the most important part about an attacking side. They have a decent drone game. Gaining early information in a round is all important as to what you will decide to do later on. Your IGL, almost certainly Yali, considering not only is she playing support, but is also your technical coach as rostered. giving me, I feel, vibes of switching things up early in the round, which could bode well later on, but they have to make sure they commit to that. And we're talking about getting that maintenance wall open, but it's taken them a decent bit of time to do so, and said early droning apparently didn't clear out said maintenance hallway because a well-placed EED will take Beezer down to 50 HP.
Definitely not a good sight to behold, especially since Beezer was the top fragger before we had the rehost go down underway. I believe now at about 12 kills, potentially more if he did a lot of damage over in round number 6, but a great opening kill for Bucka. Having to multitask both the first floor leading in through Tellers and the top floor of Cash, but so far, he remains pretty comfortable in this position. And if he wants to late round, he could potentially go on a flank, as Fisher haven't done that good of a job of dealing with that roam presence. And one of your main info gatherers was the player to die. Cappy no longer having those lion scans is definitely going to really put a chokehold on Fisher, since they're low on drones, and besides the drones, they only have a Gemini to work with.
Fisher falling early and losing the opening engagement's the most important part about this conversation, because the attacking side has been winning these opening duels, yet somehow still falling back. Now losing the opening duel and having a disadvantage is never something you want to be in that position for. A misplaced... No way. No way. They misplaced the EMP, so it misses that Electroclaw on the right wall, and then walks straight into the EDD. Somehow, Maple's also dead. What?
Wow. And he goes for another one! Wow.
Attackers have recovered
Nerf having a show-off round at least. Oh, looking for third. At least Prismo cleans it up. Yeah, a very upsetting round for Fisher, but it's what I had expected. I think it's what we both had expected deep down. Just, again, not adapting, unfortunately. That comes with the growing pains of picking out a new collegiate team. Sometimes things just don't go your way, and you might not be able to be in a good enough spot to, take that time out and get that full mental reset, especially when your coach is actively playing. They might not be focusing on the bigger picture, since they are trying to focus on what is happening directly in front of them and not having the full, bird's eye view to take an extra second to help out the rest of your squadron. Kettering now opting to go for bunk, so they're not going to really try to go against the grain from what I said. Pretty typical. I've known these guys for a long time. So again, Fisher, if you do not change your ways and you don't try to adapt against what Kettering has brought out now several times, this is going to be a 7-5 victory for Kettering, I could imagine. But it is to be somewhat expected, Dan, because this is their map pick. So you can't be at fault too much. But again, not even changing in the slightest. Nope, there it is. Maple, you made my day. Thank you. That's all I have to say. They're going to go for a lurk now, and that's going to be a huge improvement for Fisher if done correctly.
And they're finally starting to switch things up, not only with that lurk, but I see Cappy on that Nomad as well, making sure they don't have to split their attention. You just put air jabs on the Dragon Stairs, and you're perfectly fine. I love this call for Fisher. This is switching things up to a T. Beezer back on that Thatcher, not a bad call. Roby on the Ayana just needs to start fragging out, but it's Yali right back on that Ace, which is my main point of conversation. The Selmas have to find efficacy early on in these rounds. On the defensive side, it's a Bandit this time, rather than said Kaid we saw in the previous round. Significantly easier to take care of for batteries than it is 2 Electroclaws. And I feel that Fisher have an advantage coming into this round. I need to focus on 2 players though. It's Maple on that roam, possibly clearing out the Jaeger that's sitting inside a vault again, by the way, 3rd time this half. And it's Yali, not only playing the support role, but the hard breach to open things up and give Fisher not only an avenue into the site, but possibly start to frag out as well, considering she stopped fragging since that repost.
I mean, yeah, pretty much every hard breach's gun is really strong. Great damage, not too bad recoil, just the perfect storm for getting a lot of kills when you already have your job done on the hard breach. Kind of like a pseudo entry if you really want to put your mind to it. Really interested to see if Maple's going to get any backup in terms of information being gathered for him, so he can potentially work his way around from either yellow or maybe just playing underneath with those grenades could be rather potent. But again, one of your top fraggers is dead. Although I think we've seen Yali open up a good chunk of the map for their team, it's still one gun down here for Fisher, especially with someone as quick to the trigger as Beezer. That could be a really big upset, especially since this attack has been rather slow, but Maple thankfully gets rid of Derp, but Illusion is just a bit faster on that trade, playing on top of the bomb chest, the Nook having no clue of that position, now denies the ace up Fisher's sleeves.
And At this point, it's Jaeger on the flank as well. Cappy just sitting inside a cafe. A lot of the fragging power's gone here for Fisher. Yali, the only one to get a kill of the remaining 3 players here for Fisher since that rehost, needs to continue to do so. Up to 10 kills should our current trends continue. I don't think that's going to be the case, though. I honestly believe Fisher still have a shot here, but they have to play around their utility and around not only the fragging power, but the frag grenade still wielded here for Roby. There is not an ADS on that door. If a nade is thrown through, it can find a kill for free at that. The ADSs were all placed towards Vault, and the Bandit's still alive. It wasn't being swung by Roby, so they don't find the kill. And Fisher, in a 3v4, have just 40 seconds to start to push this, and time is continually ticking off that clock.
Yeah, Kettering is playing this so well. Another one-for-one trade. That's all they need to grant this as a regulation victory. Just Cappy and Yali left to stand, and the ace is desperately low. Cappy goes in for a fight, but it's not going to work their way at all. A crossfire debris, not only Cappy, but Yali as well. And a map 1, finally ending what Kettering, sending us out 7-5, but it's a best of 3. Job's not done yet for Kettering. They have to bring out the same energy on border, Dan.
Which is the Fisher Falcons map pick. You said it. Kettering
Yeah.
shows theme park. That's the most important part of this conversation. If this series goes to plan, where each team wins their map pick, Fisher Falcons are not technically on the back foot. Well, yes, on paper they are. This is their map pick. You'd expect them to do better on their map pick. They played Barton Community College. In that first week of play, they won their own map pick, lost their opponents, and then won the decider. If we go to a third map, I cannot say I favor the Fisher Falcons, but I can say I favor them going into border, because they should have the prep coming forward. I like their chances to at least force a third.
And to Fisher's credit as well, this is a map for Kettering, that being Theme Park, where they have beat quite literally the best teams in collegiate at one point. Purdue University, if that rings a bell, they've been champions of NECC for countless semesters. They play in other collegiate leagues at well. At a point, they were deemed the best team in collegiate, and Theme Park was a map they got pummeled on by Kettering, or at least beaten. I don't know if pummeled's the best word. It sounds a little one-sided. It was a much closer game than that, obviously, but Kettering, at the end of the day, they still won it. This is probably one of their best maps. So going to border, if they don't have as much experience on this map in comparison to Theme Park, this could easily be a victory for Fisher, like you had mentioned, and then it would go down to the decider map, which how most best of threes work. It's kind of the 50-50 at that point. Both teams somewhat comfortable of going to there for the final map. So like you mentioned, really anything could happen if we see that border map be a win for Fisher. But before we go to map 2, we'll take a quick little break and be back to see if that upset can happen, or if Kettering just take us home in a quick 2-0 victory. Stick around, as we'll be right back.
Map number 2 on the way as we head into border. We move across the border in towards whatever Middle Eastern country we're in. I'm honestly not 100% sure where we are. I believe it's Pakistan from what I've been told. But I'm Time Delay, still joined alongside me as fellow and
Hello.
Fisher College's map pick needs to be a victory to force a third map. They'll start off on the defensive side to pull it off. I'm a little surprised Kettering's chosen the attack.
And the only thing I really know about border is that you're not supposed to go near the helicopter. But I think that's enough information that you need going into here.
I saw copy paste in the Rainbow Six Twitch earlier today. Like the full copy pasta.
I don't think I've ever heard the full like voice line of it, since normally someone shoots out the gramophone, or like I just die and get really mad and probably walk away from my computer before it finishes. But I bet it's something really funny, so maybe I'll go back and watch that.
Ready?
You know what? Yeah, why not? The bands are pretty normal, I'd say. This all makes sense. We can talk about it later.
Okay. Well, the I had it and then I lost it.
All right,
Yeah,
maybe for
uno-
like
uno
a
momento.
treat. Maybe for like a treat later, we'll bring it up again. Especially if it's like
Yeah.
a third map, add some more humor to it. Well, I guess I'm gonna talk about the bands then. Osa, Fisher, I guess just don't want to deal with that. Fair enough, since Osa is really good, especially on border. Jackal banned by Kettering. I guess that's to weaken the fact that Fisher have been struggling with those roam clears, and they only brought him out, that being Kettering, they only brought Jackal out like one round, so not a big issue for them. They then proceed to target ban Azami, which makes sense. Yali was a very annoying person to deal with when she was rocking that operator. And then Fisher, once again, they go for a somewhat default ban of the Valkyrie, someone who is very strong on this map in particular. A lot of nasty cameras that you're just going to have no idea exist. So good info can be brought when that Navy SEAL op is available. So not too shocked about this ban phase. And then I believe the starting site
Attackers
we
need
had
to
was
locate and
Armory,
defuse
if I
bombs.
caught it
Yep.
correctly. Yes, it was. Okay, I did not misread what was shown on the screen. And the lineup for Fisher, it seems like they want to go on a pretty light roam. They still want to extend, but nothing too severe like, a Wamai, for example. They don't have the castle either. So they can still go in and, be a little active, but they don't have a lot of, I suppose, stall potential besides just their own bodies.
This is where I'd chip in to a point about the defensive lineup, but instead, I'm going to give you the full voice line because I've just found it. A medical helicopter will be extracting injured person. Do not attempt to board the helicopter. For your own safety, keep the area surrounding the medical tent clear for authorized personnel and those in need of medical attention. Keep passport with you at all times. If the border agent asks you for your papers, be prepared to provide them. Parents, hold passport for children. Clear the area. Move behind the barricade as quickly as possible. If you need medical attention, inform one of the border agents. That's the old speaker that used to exist. It does no longer. Thank you very much, Ubisoft, for removing that. It was funny, and then it became annoying.
Added some lore to the game. Always nice for all the diehard fans, but then you also have other diehard fans that like to use their ears in a very sound-based game. So I don't fault them for not liking that sound line. Anyways, Kettering seemed to be operating through wanting to get triple wall through office cleared out and having one person light roam near the top east balcony, just to make sure that they have maybe a cutoff and to better help the rest of their teammates. Also, top east stairs control is really powerful. A lot of silence can be gathered from that one position, so it's not a bad thing to have for the defense or the offensive side. I mean, and look at that, Derp can just snipe a guy all the way down that main hallway, that being Maple, and your main chip damage weapon of that DMR is off the board. Probably your best ranged weapon you can have for border. So a fantastic opening kill for Kettering.
Not only do they drop that Aruni, but I feel the aggression there for Fisher's also dropped off a little bit, meaning Kettering can play a little bit more aggressive, and they do. It's derp to find another. This time it's Robe. The 416C will have no further effect here in our first round of play. Yali around towards the backside of office should be cleared out. They shot a drone before she pushed forward, but it's amplified to look to swing, but it's Prismo around the double door to find the kill. Yes, they find the down on Amplify, but a down will find you absolutely nothing if you cannot finish that, nor if you have only 2 players alive in a full, now 2v4. Cappy's stuck on the backside of Archives as well. Splitting this defensive side has been nearly perfect for Kettering, and it's been working out to perfection.
Weezer's now left in a 1v4 as Amplify gets resurrected, but Derp will end his reign of power prematurely. Thankfully, though, Amplify, being picked back up, can swiftly find that trade as Weezer was just working for more bloodshed before you had that execute fall down. Good opening round for Kettering, acknowledging that nobody was playing on top east. You tend to see a lot of teams extend in that one direction because how much map control you can get. and how much you're able to force the roamers back from just that one simple position. With Kettering getting that map control almost instantly, they catch Fisher on a bad rotate that grants Derp 2 separate kills, and during a 5-on-3 with some of the roam games still being alive, you have to reposition, which again gives more time for Kettering to set
Attackers
up.
need to
So
locate
overall,
and defuse
fantastic
bombs.
job by Kettering, again capitalizing on the mistakes that Fisher had, and it seems like they're going to try to reattempt going lockers with a slightly different lineup, more or less revolving around the Mira pick, and maybe some better information here with Yali on the Lucy. But I still feel like the same problems are going to be completely sound here that Kettering are most likely going to just, rely on once again, because I could imagine Fisher aren't going to be extending too heavily on top of this.
I feel that nothing's going to change here for Fisher. The only thing I have to note is the Mira. I feel they're going to try and play a little bit more off of their own singular information, the one-way mirror being there. But overall, the playstyle I don't think is going to change all that much. Well, yes, they've changed the operator compositions. The overall style of their defensive setup, other than what we are seeing right now with the Mira, has been almost a carbon copy. And I have to say it's a little bit concerning. Kettering are a very dynamic team on the attacking side. They're bringing Prismo on the Twitch in order to even take out said Black Mirrors. Fisher have a lot of work to do, and Kettering are making sure it becomes a whole lot more.
Well, 30 seconds just about over and done with. Prismo, who just spots out Yali's head, but unfortunately, the F2 just not being all too wieldy from that far of a distance, so Yali will remain alive for the time being. Beezer having this open line of sight could potentially get rid of Derp if he has an idea that he's currently on the up center rappel, but as of now, it seems like Bucka and Derp have a better angle of the alibi. A good tag team to shut down that one anchor in sight, but still for Kettering, they're going to opt to go for the roam clear first and foremost, not jumping the gun just yet, and now they're going to have even more tempo going in this round because, again, they've won the entry with relative ease.
Oh, they've now lost.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
I believe you're 2 for 2 on Caster's Curses today there, John.
Yes.
Outstanding job from you. Very efficient. Well done. A nice shot as well from Maple over top of their own placed down Black Mirror. I do believe that exothermic charge can go off. It does, and the information was there as to the whereabouts of the defensive side, so they'll have to vacate the position for the time being. The Black Mirror set up through the Archives wall in towards that office peak is still alive for the time being, but Kettering looking to try and eliminate that possibility. I believe that Rotero drone may do it. Hold the phone. On the bottom side, that could clear out the Black Mirror. It does! That is such a smart play with the Rotero. Because there's no longer a wall for it to go on, it just dissipates into thin air. Apparently matter is fallible.
Yep, with the wall being soft, quick work for the Rotero drone. Down goes that power angle, and Kettering have a much better avenue to enter the bomb site. It's just that presence by lockers, and maybe Maple going in on alert, but that Rotero drone will locate their position, almost blows them up sky high, but thankfully Maple can dodge it at just the right time. 4 versus 3, not too much time left to go here for Kettering. But again, they have good information on Fisher's position, and they should be able to figure out a process of elimination. Someone is still off the site, and Amplify just tries to stick that defuse. Nitro Cell wails out. They hear the audio call, but they're able to swiftly dodge it. Robe, a nice shot onto Bucka, but still a post-plant position nonetheless. Fisher, you have to up the ante. You've got to get aggressive as you're now forced to retake on completely equal terms. You still have Prismo playing inside a fountain as well, but he cannot watch the cross. The wall is hard. You've got to get active, my friend. He's waiting for a full commit, but gets shot in the back by Cappy. Maple sticking the defuse as well. Illusion the only one left. You've got to pick it up, brother. You've got to get going. There's no one to cover this disable, and Fisher somehow thread the needle and take round 2.
You know, if I could put a question mark in all chat, I would have done it twice throughout that round. Number 1, when Fisher vacate the archive site, and then without any information, still try to blow a C4 off only a sound cue of a plant, which in all fairness was understandable. Predicting it's on the backside of the bomb chassis is not such a fall from grace. But the real question is, why was Kettering planning the diffuser and then not anywhere near it as it was going down? The only player with a direct line of sight anywhere near the diffuser was the Thermite, of whom placed it down. The rest of the team in towards office, one towards main balcony, the other in CCTV. For all of you who are not all too familiar with the environment of Border, that is nowhere near the Archives balcony door. That infuriated me. I'll move on, though, into our now third round of play. Bathroom Tellers here for Fisher. I'm still question marking both teams. Fisher gets less of a capitalized question mark. If you can do that, I don't think you can. But you get the point.
Attackers have located a bomb.
That is the one nice
10
thing
seconds
about
left
having
before insertion.
your quote-unquote friends play, or at least having someone that you know play the
5
game. You
seconds
can be a little
remaining.
more passionate about the feedback and not raise any red flags. Sometimes that happens.
Attackers
Glad
objective
today
is
that
defuse
this
the
is the
bomb.
one time where that's not going to be the case, unless Beezer wants to troll, which, you know, he could do that. Justifiable, I understand.
Yali is a troll.
But I don't think that is very real. And now she knows my location, so she's probably going to come to hunt me down after this broadcast. I fear for my life, but that's okay, as at least when she's playing the game, she cannot try to hunt me down. She's focused on Kettering at the moment, and so far, hasn't had a good performance hunting these rabbits. Currently 0-2, but you know what? You bring up that same flair on Theme Park, I'm sure you could change those numbers quite quickly. Kettering seem to have a bit of a slower approach on this clear, but they've got CC control. Funny enough, no one's playing for the fallback or playing underneath. So once again, free control for Kettering, a little jarring, but again, that late round presence could be nightmarish.
Hello.
And no, Yali proves me wrong. The default cam to give enough info to throw that nitro cell, it grants her the opening kill. Derp is now gone.
Yali has been fairly good on opening kills. In the second half over on Theme, and now the first half here on Border. It's been looking fairly good for Fisher as a whole, notably Yali, the proponent to it. She's on the Kaid this time around, the reason she has a C4 in back pocket. Bucka taking a little bit of damage in towards the small office, down to about 60 HP or so. But again, it's Fisher just doing some pot shots of damage, finding a full kill onto Derp with the aforementioned C4, and not really taking anything for it. They're not losing all that much in terms of not only their HP, but real estate. They did freely give up the top floor, but they did that from the get-go.
Well, now we can see if maybe having a bit of a lighter bit of pressure on that top floor can actually pay dividends by not sacrificing all too much above and actually making Kettering play the long con in round number 3. Some vertical being made, weakening that site presence over in Bathroom. You can maybe hop to the closed window with that pressure removed, but still unwise to do so with the extension that goes down by the server room. At the moment, Kettering still continue to bring down that vertical, but just now I think they run out unless Bucka wanted to use those Ash charges, but he'll probably save them for the actual bomb site itself. 50 seconds to go. Fisher still have not lost that man advantage and are currently just waiting for Kettering to fall down a floor lower and begin that execute. Yali even setting up to make sure these back walls cannot get opened up, and if they do, Beezer could probably wide swing, work a kill, so really everything is accounted for here for Fisher.
And not only that, but they're playing such passive-aggressive angles. Passive in the terms they don't have to take proactive angles, but in the same right, aggressive where they can have that crossfire established. The issue is, Yali's been taken care of, and they don't have the redundancy to take care of Bucka through the window. It's a double there for the Ash, and they're taking care of business every day. The issue is, Fisher can deny this diffuser plant. It does not come through. A 1v3 for Roby with the diffuser itself put on the ground. This time around, Kettering have line of sight onto its whereabouts as well. They have the redundancy in terms of their refrag ability, and with 30 seconds left on the diffuse, Roby just has to get onto the site itself, much less onto the diffuser proper.
And not too much time left as well. You've got outside presence by Kettering, off-site presence by Kettering. A lot to try to worry about with such little time as well. So many resources built against you. Now down to a fraction of HP. Rob has to cross over this absolute death trap that Prismo is holding, and the name death trap would imply that he eventually dies. That just now happening. Fisher not having the best retake, and I think it all had to start with Yali, unfortunately, probably receiving a call by Beezer to swing as he probably heard the thermite getting close on the wall. He expected to be a freebie as he'll have his gadget out and not his gun, but thankfully Bucka was in a perfect spot to provide coverage for the thermite and denying that potential 5 versus 3. If we saw Yali still in customs, that would have left several problems for Fisher, or probably for Kettering, sorry, because Fisher still have the presence inside of server room, for example. They can buddy up with someone in customs, and it's still someone directly in customs with just 30 seconds left, and you don't even have an avenue in through sight except that window hop in, which again, someone's in server. They're going to shoot you if you go in through that window, most likely. So there weren't a lot of options for Kettering in those dying moments, but thankfully with Bucka having a good insight on what's probably going to happen, they were able to shut down Yali and still allow the opportunity to enter into the bomb site. from that back wall. And again, once you lose that customs position, you can get a little more aggressive, challenge those soft angles that were being
10
used
seconds
against
to go.
you. And it just flipped the script completely for Fisher, and now they're once again at that disadvantage.
5 seconds remaining.
I think it was one of those situations where being pushed out of comfortable positions, sending you
Attackers
into
are
a
moving out to
crossfire,
locate a
cost you
bomb
your
and
life.
defuse it.
Amplify was able to find the kill onto Yali because, as you mentioned, Bucka sent them out of position. And again, we saw Beezer put out of position with Amplify's exothermic charge, so they died to Bucka. It was a trade of both players setting each other up for kills. It was kind of wild to see how consistent that can be. But Kettering do pick up the round into our fourth play now, and back to the exact same site go Fisher. They want to try again, and understandably so. Not all that much changing between these two rounds, at least not at all in terms of operator composition. Their defensive setup, however, a little bit more extended to the top floor. They want to take more time away from the Kettering attack and force them into a little bit more of a time crunch later on, making it significantly less comfortable for them to send Fisher out of position.
Yeah, because even though we had Kettering still on the execute with 40 seconds and they were at a disadvantage, they were able to set up rather comfortably despite all those disadvantages, especially since they weren't really directly challenged and they just figured it out via process of elimination that they would know where Fisher is currently lying in wait for those last couple of moments on the round. Interesting position by Beezer. If he needs to fall down the hatch, he can, and depending on how he's prone, he could fake a drop down, but he'll commit to it instead. Doesn't want to just be left alone on an island inside of mini office and will live to tell the tale
look at Yali.
for a little bit longer. And oh boy, another C4
no.
potentially attempted by her, but no, still in their back pocket for now. And Beezer off that rotation works up metal and just demolishes Bucka. Robe as well gets rid of Derp. Amplify now being droned in, trying to work off of Prismo as well, as they work not only leading into offices, but also through that metal detector towards top metal stairs. But all that Fisher has to do is just sit here and waste more time, and they'll be completely fine.
And the one thing that they didn't do in the previous round was wasting time. The aggression on the top floor just was not there, and giving Kettering an entire floor to themselves without requiring them to take the time to pull it off in terms of a full clearance, other than drones utilized, as we saw, was their downfall. And the previous this time, not so much the case. The spray from Robe finds a double in the round, and they're able to back out. Well, they were for the time being, and then Prismo does shut them down. But a one-for-one trade on that top floor, taking out yet another, is advantageous for this Fisher side. And that top floor hold proving successful, and Yali even with a return through the hole they themselves created, leaving Amplify on the Thermite in a 1v4 with 30 seconds left and no site presence whatsoever. This is what we would call the old run away and save the KD, I think.
Question.
Never mind.
Maybe working for one more. I guess not. Unfortunate timing there for Amplify, but
15
hey,
seconds to go.
tactical reset, I suppose. Not the worst idea I could imagine. Eventually, their final resting place will be between the rotate of Tellers and Basser, and Cappy now getting a kill as well, just confirming the round over and done with. And for Fisher, gotta admit, adaptability. It's definitely here. It wasn't all too functional on Theme Park, but we had a completely different defensive hold on that round with just a single round gap. That was it. You had a very, I'd say, first floor oriented defensive hold by Fisher. They were expecting Kettering to waste their own time and playing out the fact they might get a man advantage in that round, which they did. But again, Fisher still were not able to hold on during that
Attackers need
execute
to
phase. But
locate and
instead,
defuse as many
they
bombs as
completely
they can.
change the dynamic. They get a lot more active on the roam. They are constantly moving around, so that strong info basis that Kettering has had becomes practically useless. And off the fact that they had no proper info on Beezer's position, he works a free one, and that causes chaos to allow Robe to back him up as well above, and everything just goes south from there. Even Robe, with multiple attackers poking and prodding at him from different angles, he still kills one of the two. So impressive work by Fisher on that roam game, and I hope to see that replicate throughout these rounds, because that has really put a lot of hurt on Kettering.
10 seconds to go.
And Kettering removing the comfortability of their attack, as we saw a little bit on Theme here and there, is really what's been putting them against, well,
Attackers must locate
everything,
and defuse
I
the bomb.
suppose. Their attacking side over on that Theme Park map. To open things up, you said if they get stalled out too much, they can be easily removed. That was on Throne Armory in the first round, and that's exactly what happened. They took too long, and they were removed because of it. That's what happened there. They took a little bit too long, and then as they started to push it quickly as a team, they were really just put straight through a meat grinder and taken out quickly. So, try to push through East Stairs this time around. You can see Crouch Hold being dropped down by Beezer. I believe they've been thrown out, at least I'm pretty sure. No, it's Yali getting aggressive. This with the 9Z. She'll back away with an opening kill, no less. Another opener, by the way. That's at least 2 for her alone.
And the East Stairs presence. Kettering were not expecting that, and Yali just swings them. There's a terminology for that that I could use off stream, but I'm not going to here. All I want to say is it took a lot of cojones for Yali to go and do that, and it works out pretty well, as your only set of grenades is now gone. And as well, the lack of information that you sometimes have to deal with that Nook being available is now no longer a threat. Yali, though, definitely overstaying her welcome to an extent, is going to get refragged potentially. Only DBNO, but not in the best spot currently to get revived. But that could most definitely change if Fisher want to have that happen. Nope, a Twitch drone. Zapped to death, and unfortunately a sad face will follow up on that factor. But hey, at least Kettering get that trade. Could have been worse though for Fisher, I'd have to say. At least Yali got aggressive at the right time the first time.
This is weird. The Rotera drone not actually clearing out that Mira. We saw it just 2 rounds or 3 rounds prior, where the Mira was set up on a soft wall. And that Rotera drone, I don't know. No, not that wall. The other one. The other Mira. There it is.
Oh,
but it misses this time around. They tried. They failed. And they'll try and shoot it out. They actually just shoot out the Mira, and they basically have an open wall minus, well, an outline of a Mira, I suppose. They should be able to take care of that. Not all that much of a difficulty. Amplify barely staying alive off the back of a C4 from Cappy. They have about 40 HP remaining, but most importantly, they still have HP remaining.
And still some info as well for Kettering to now figure out there's 2 in archives. Actually 3 in total. There's someone currently hiding between the AC window and the doorway on that backwards balcony. So if they really want to just dogpile on the one guy stuck in B, that is a potential option. Amplify, I don't know how you found that kill, but good job, I suppose, for 556. Still, Beezer by themselves, wrapping around near the bomb chassis. Technically, everyone is isolated. It would just take a couple of good drones for Kettering to get this equation solved, but they're short on time, and they still have to rotate just under 20 seconds to go. That's where Cappy comes into play. A magnificent shot, and like you mentioned, Dan, that's the diffuser. You've got to get rid of this complete fortress in the corner of the map. Here comes Rove out of nowhere, finds one.
What?
But Kettering still win? I think Bucka just walked into sight, simply just hit the gritty on them, and Kettering still win? I am completely shocked about that, but good on them, I suppose.
That's the weird part for Fisher. They were so widely established that they did not have the team play to lock things down. And Kettering's attacking side really tore it apart. You were talking about just a few good drones. They had a few good men to pull it off. A 4v3, yeah, in their favor. Cappy drops the diffuser. Who needs a diffuser? We play team deathmatch around here, fellow, and they do so apparently to perfect extents. Fisher will go back to Armory Archives to try and lock down the top floor once more. I believe this is their 3rd attempt at the top floor, if not 4th. I don't think any of them have been successful. No, one of them has been successful, so this is their 3rd attempt. I can do that.
Yeah, a little shocked that we haven't seen a lot of variety by Fisher on border. Sure, you could argue there's only 2 really good sites, and one of them is Bathroom, a bomb site that's currently locked because they won that on round 4, but still not trying anything a little more unique. Definitely seems a bit interesting. Maybe they were expecting to have the Azomni so they could extend a bit easier in CCTV, and because of that, that's why they're not as aggressive and not as headstrong on these extensions. That honestly might be it. Might want to have a talk with Yali about that later, but who really knows? Anyways, Kettering on their offense have been pretty good. At the very least, they'll get the exact same split that they had on Theme Park. And if they're a little more used to not having an Azomni in play for border, they could theoretically be fine. But wow, smoked. Yali on Pack Watch once again somehow kills Derp despite him pre-firing with the Vector. That thing hits like a truck, but apparently Yali's Vector just shoots faster and distributes more bullets. And now she'll just hold CCTV, probably with her life, I would assume, unless she wants to drop down the hatch.
That's exactly what she does. And, well, if you have ever played football there, fellow, or watched it at all, they say speed kills. The V308 versus the Vector itself is really just a difference of speed, a little bit of impact, so you're looking at really Ray Lewis versus, I don't know, whoever else in the Ravens that I can't think of off the top of my head. But still an applicable conversation. Prismo's going to run away from a C4. That was heard because of the fact it was thrown in square and ripped off the back of a sound cue. Yali looking for aggression off the back of a drone throw. Prismo caught off guard. Yali will take out the Twitch. This is looking so clean for... I had to say it. I had to say it.
1 for 1.
She's dead.
There you go. It was bound to happen. Definitely
True.
found more value than what you would expect. I was going to say timing.exe. I think we saw that once again with her falling back at just the worst time possible when you're on just a fraction of HP. But it happens. 1:20 to go. Kettering finally getting CCTV control. And at least they still have a Flores and Ash to maybe break these mirror windows. But with the presence of a Mew, that could be rather difficult. Nope, the Ash charge will just open things up quite well. Maybe breaking the Vulcan as well, but the Mew will actually jam out the last Rotero drone. And one of the fewer Terror drones left. Illusion still has 2 in their back pocket. I guess I need to go back to my math class. Just about 60 seconds left here for Kettering. They're now potentially getting ready to, I don't know, maybe execute in through lockers. That could be something new for them since they don't have a lot of control elsewhere, and that would take probably way too much time, especially with a Vulcan available.
Bucka's Ash taking a decent bit of damage, but you were talking... I feel this is an odd scenario for Kettering to be in. Well, yes, they have off-site pressure once more. The issue they're going to run into is the fact that they just do not have the on-site presence, and the lack of drones may very well cost them. Well, yes, they have technically 5 remaining. One of them's caught in a drone, and the other 3 are just null and void. Beezer getting a kill across onto Amplify, popping the Vulcan canister as well, leaving Illusion in a 1v4. Not gonna happen. Beezer uses the MX4 Storm to near perfection once more, fragging out of his mine perfectly. I'm gonna say perfect again, just because I want to, and Fisher's defense looked just so.
And at least to give the credit where credit is due for Kettering, A, this is not their map pick, and B, they still had a 3-3 half, so that's pretty good, I'd have to say, for them. And it did seem like they were a little restricted on that round in particular, probably not as comfortable with trying to work their way in through lockers because they just had a lot more utility to deal with and less operators to help alleviate some of that pain.
Need to
So
locate and defuse
it's pretty
bomb.
expected. But once again, Fisher being able to play off the fact that Kettering are not expecting that same aggression, really good heads-up play by them. To at least make things even on their terms. But now they have to go on the attack, which I wouldn't say is that challenging on a map like Border, but you have to be very well coordinated. And although we did talk about how long Fisher have been playing together instead of T3 and T4, there might be some small cracks in the armor, especially against a Titan such as Kettering, and they have good info ops, in particular Bucka on the Pulse, who I can imagine is going to make a lot of verticality with that shotgun to not only help himself play underneath, but probably help his teammates on the bomb site and better prolong these extensions being dealt with once they have to
Attackers'
fall back.
objective is to locate a bomb and defuse it.
Talking about that pulse, not only is there information, but there are 3 C4s here for the defensive side. That indicates not only the verticality, as you hinted at, but it also indicates they're trying to play for picks they otherwise wouldn't pick up with direct line of sight. I'm liking how they're prepping this round with not only the operators on the board in terms of the Mute with a shotgun and that Kaid with TCSG, but they want to play around their environment and, most importantly, through the floor, with the Pulse completely vacating the site itself around the passport side. I'm not sure what to make of this from the Fisher point of view, though, because there's not all that much they can do to gain all the information. With the Pulse so far gone, there's no way you clear that.
No, I think they've got to hope that they either have info and try to bait the C4 if they want to plant archives, or they throw an EMP that might connect on a Bucka's sensor, so he doesn't have great information as to where exactly to throw that C4, but his teammates can still provide audio information once their opponents enter the site to try to stick that potential diffuser on the ground. Yeah, it does seem like for Fisher, they want to open up that single wall, making sure no one can play directly in archives, and forcing that potential retake in an as of now 5 versus 5. Just double checking, making sure that no one's playing Fountain. Perhaps they can maybe try to aggress from that doorway, not just the single wall itself, to provide extra angles. But Derp just at the perfect moment strikes on the alley's skull. No more hard destruction left, and all of a sudden things became way more linear for Fisher, despite equalizing.
Yeah, and the issue is that's not Yali's fault whatsoever. With Gemini Replicator being taken out without finding any information, they did not know that the Fountain side was occupied. A perfectly timed swing. Cappy, by the way, on a narrow pixel angle towards the back corner of Armory. You can see the just narrow outline of that Kai, but here comes the condensation. Fisher condensing onto the site itself. The Pulse up metal finds the kill with the pistol. Not even the M1014. They don't need it. They may be able to find the res onto their DBNO Jaeger. They do have a C4 remaining in terms of that Kaid, but Robe needs to get this diffuser down before that starts to come into play, and it's not gonna happen. Dropped where they stand, and the Pulse is back downstairs with information. 40 seconds left, and Fisher are up against the ropes, unfortunately without the movement of Muhammad Ali.
And you've got to pick the perfect spot to get that plant down as well. So much of this flooring being soft and susceptible to that shotgun. Oh no, this could be perfect for Bucka. Cappy's been down, 3 versus 1. How does Kettering bring this one back? Bees are left alone to sit in the bomb site, a smoke obscuring his vision, and Prismo to light him up with lead bullets. Kettering somehow bring things back off of a valiant effort by Bucka, just charging up metal stairs and finding 2 very impactful plays on that round.
You know, I have to give it to the Pulse. In all fairness to them, the M45 is probably one of the better pistols in the game, the PMM rivaling it, but the M1014, the forethought to play vertically, not only with your C4, but after you drop it, to use your shotgun off of information on the site your team does not have to occupy. We saw Fisher play a similar defensive setup, but without that vertical pressure down below. They only were playing linearly, horizontally, and unfortunately with a heavy lack of information. Fortunately for them, it worked out as well in a completely contrasting way. Here for Kettering, it was so well played from the get-go, and while yes, Fisher did condense onto them, they were able to deal with the pressure and relieve it as it stood. They'll head down to Bathroom Tellers in the second round of play with a first round victory in the half.
Always good to see Bucka still pop off. You know, every now and again I still see that glimmer in his eye. You know, the almost top 4 contending collegiate team inside of all of Collegiate R6. And it's good to see that from time to time, especially coming up with very good plays and being able to punish your opponent's very direct form of attack. It's the same problem we saw in Theme Park, and it's now being transferred over into Border once again. Although it wasn't as bad of an issue, I would say, on the defensive half for Fisher going into Border, but now it's starting to loom over their heads once again. Kettering interested to see if they continue to have that same onward aggression, especially in the late round, and to see if Fisher want to try to work around them in any which way. But so far, it seems that for Fisher, they want to opt to go for roughly the same kind of attack that we had seen by Kettering in the first half, which was to work their way in through CCTV, get top east control, and then slowly begin to dwindle down the rest of the defense, make them go for that fallback, and then just only have to focus on the top floor. I mean, middle or bottom floor. John, get it together.
A brief note about this defensive setup as well is Fisher leaving themselves susceptible to long roams and quick flanks as an establishment. Yeah. Bucka dropping Maple and another as well onto Yali. Good night. The suppressor MX4 Storm with a 1.5 on it, sometimes all you need. But my conversation point was the fact that Fisher are leaving themselves up to these possibilities of flanks, and somehow Bucka gets another. Can I finish a point, please? This guy's insane and won't even let me finish a thought because he continues to just cut down Fisher. I was going to bring up the fact that Fisher doesn't even clear out the full map, but apparently they're not giving the opportunity to him because Bucka just cannot die.
What?
Derp will follow in his footsteps. The 9mm, it's a full house of frags, a flawless round at that. Bucka with 3, Derp with 2 of their own, and Kettering with 5 rounds on the map. Fisher need a timeout.
Oh my god, the buddy ace of all buddy aces. That was impeccable by Kettering. I'm glad Fisher opted to go for the timeout here, but oh my goodness. Once again, Kettering just Again, exposing the weaknesses that Fisher have had so far in terms of their new era in the Legends division. That being, no one went past CCTV Balk to go into Locker's room. That's a pretty high traffic area when you're clearing out that position top to bottom. Yet everyone on Fisher just walked into the same two angles and didn't really think better of it, it seemed. And Bucka just fully laying down the law once again, having Derp on cleanup crew as well. Just impressive stuff. Fisher, they just got to get the step-by-step down a little bit more methodically. Once again, they have to take into consideration what the challenges are of dealing with these extensions. What positions can we attack from to force an early fallback and get good map control? And maybe if we can establish a cutoff, what can grant us that opening kill a little more successfully? Because for the most part, although Fisher haven't been slouches on winning rounds, they have been slouches on finding opening gunfights as a win most times. I think Border has been a little bit different from Theme Park, but even then when they work the opening kills, it seems like their trade games haven't been all too consistent in terms of denying it against Kettering. So there have definitely been a lot of issues that have now been shown to light once again, despite this being their map.
Well, you were talking about Bucka laying down the law. Bucka went from, in round number 7, being the law enforcement, that being the FBI agent of Pulse, to becoming the judge, jury, and executioner of the alibi in the following round. Up towards it. I believe 5 kills in 2 rounds for Bucka. 5 kills between him and Derp in that round specifically. A buddy ace, as you mentioned. I like to call it a full house of frags because I play way too much poker. But Kettering are looking so good on the defensive side, and their strats are decisive. They know what they want to do. They know how they want to do it, and most importantly, they know when to pull off their swings. Rather than getting over aggressive in disadvantageous times of play, they just get aggressive when it works for them. And now we see the 3rd site in the rotation for the first time thus far today, by the way, that being Ventilation Workshop, the first floor being played for the 3rd time total. 4th time total, because again, I can do math. Fisher need to win this. They lose this, I do not think they pick up either Armory Lockers or Bathroom Tellers consecutively.
And if Kettering really wanted to add more salt to the wound, they also have a timeout, so if they really needed to, they could take a reset. And that would greatly improve their chances of winning map number 2 and not forcing Cafe to be in play. Let's see what Fisher can do to maybe work off the fact that they now have the momentum swing a little bit in their way. Illusion trying to deny anyone working past that minor choke point near that 45-degree angle on the balcony.
Hello.
Maple Leafs gets rid of Bucka, and oh dear, Illusion not expecting the shield to fully disappear in the matter of minutes. Now losing out on almost all of your top floor presence. There is still one defender I thought above, but no, that was Derp. He just walked down metal. It's now the top floor up for grabs, but Derp working some nasty angles through the custom hatch, escapes away with 1, and can now work his way potentially back into sight, but he's going to wait to maybe work another kill and equalize in 3-on-3.
Now, I happen to have X-ray vision, but if I'm Derp here, I go up east stairs and try and play a long angle to deny top floor control. But, again, I have X-ray vision. Derp does not have the luxury of cheats, at least hopefully not, because then we'd have a whole nother problem. But Kettering, on the defensive side, are looking so clean at this point. Yes, Fisher find 2 openers, but it is traded back, and they have not won the round just yet. With Maple falling, that's a lot of your top floor control gone because the sledge is off the board. While yes, you may still be able to play off of that with a possible ace should you choose to do so, exactly what they're doing as a matter of fact. I don't think this is enough for the attacking side, and Cappy, not gonna find it.
Also, using those Selma charges means you cannot open the hatches if they're reinforced. You need 2 in total. Yali's only down to 1. So this is not a good look for Fisher once they have to dilute themselves down another floor. Derp almost spots out Cappy, working their way down across the supply angle, but it's not going to connect enough shots to confirm that headshot. Here comes the hop in by the Iana, currently on the Gemini. I believe to feed some information before they eventually going for that commit. Yep, fully destroyed now by Amplify. He's fully aware that's probably going to be a window Hail Mary by the offense, but Derp just, all right, trying to assist. gets caught off guard by Beezer. Smokes now come wailing in. There's only one proper line of defense, and it could be that Nitro Cell, but Prismo with a godly angle just pokes at Cappy, gets rid of him from this equation, and Beezer trying to cover cannot stop a Nitro Cell from finding his teammate. Now he's on plant duty. 2 seconds to go. Yali watching above. Can they guard this rotate? Yes, they can. Amplify shut down. The plant will go down, but Prismo still gets rid of Beezer. A 1-for-1 info from each players. Could definitely make this work. An even 50-50, but Yali, a frost mat! I think that's the final thing that sets off Yali the wrong way. They left it for the drop down, knowing that's a potential to have happen. And Unnamed confirms that for us. Prismo, plenty of time left to defuse. How the mighty have fallen for Fisher.
Now at this point, if I'm Fisher, I feel so bad because that was such a well-prepped round, but it was a culmination of 3 different issues. Number 1, the long angle held by the Jaeger, and Robe was the one to jump in on like 2 HP and die. That's the issue they ran into. A single shot was all that was required as Prismo found the kill. The second was the C4. I called it as it was being thrown. Amplify was able to drop that diffuser, and it became that true 2 versus 2. Yes, Beezer got the diffuser down, but it was immediately refragged as Prismo got them just the same, and Prismo's proactivity to go up to the top floor and try and clear Yali out. Yali had 2 options. Number 1, take the fight, of which is never smart in a post-plant scenario, or number 2, vacate the premises, that being either out the main balcony on the west side or down that office hatch. They chose the latter, and unfortunately, with the frost mat on the ground, they chose incorrectly. Kettering onto match and series point at this point, and they have 3 mulligans to pull it off. They can go to any of the sites at any point. It's Armory Archives first, then Bathroom Tellers, and then Workshop and Ventilation that open in that order.
A deathly site to defend as well, which is even more jarring that Kettering won that round. Although it was, I don't want to call it luck, but definitely unfortunate placement there for Fisher during that 1 versus 1. A bad call made, adrenaline pumping through your veins. Sometimes you make mistakes. It happens. But Kettering keeping pretty cool and collective during that round, I'd have to say. Looks quite hopeful for them. That's a really funny frost mat. If that finds somebody down, I'd be very... I think I'd have a good smile on my face. We might catch that later, but who knows? Maybe Fisher can drone it out and just avoid it or shoot it, whatever they prefer. We'll find out shortly. Yep, Yali does spot it, go for the ping as well. And Maple manages to throw a grenade perfectly at the feet of Amplify. The Kaid now gone, no tricking left available, but there isn't a lot of util to break those Cade claws, so I'm interested to see if the hard destruction is still a problem for them.
Note I want to bring up is, again, verticality here for Bucka. It's a carbon copy of their previous setup where they want to play vertically. They'll open things up relatively quickly. The exothermic charge available there for Yali, of which she utilizes fairly early on. The spray missing. Beezer wants a swing early on towards the aforementioned Jaeger, but won't find it and instead starts to pressure Derp out of CCTV. This is a good and quick roam clear from Fisher. 1:40 still in the clock. It's 100 seconds for them to condense, and they have full off-site pressure. They've condensed most of the roam other than the bottom floor, of which they have the Nook to try and clear out, and she's guessing correctly but is now going up these metal stairs. I don't think the Pulse is aware of it, and they can push quickly, so should they choose to do so, Maple instead will go right back down to the bottom floor and look to now clear out the Pulse, of which does not know about her position. This could be chaotic for the Pulse to run into.
Bucka's looking for the lineup of the match, I would say. Not even the lineup of the century. It might be an overstatement, but still. If he hits that shot, I think there would be some major emphasis on how important that is here for Kettering in these last 60 seconds. But no, he'll rotate instead. If there's proper info, he can maybe huck out a Nitro Cell, perhaps. Seems likely. Shotgun hole to follow up. Maple surely could hear this. Maybe trying to get rid of the Pulse with their pants down, potentially. Spot to the body. Yep. Down goes Bucka. A major factor now gone, but the site presence still strong as ever. Prismo gets pretty alley. Beezer goes for this plant, but currently the Waft is soft next to them, I mean, but there's still enough coverage as is. Prismo may find another, but it's only up to Dirt, and we're now caught in the post plant. Shoots out the drone, could be ample information. Another frost mat caught off screen for Maple, 2 versus 1 now. We still have to go on the retake. Air jab, blast back Derp, stuck a little while longer. Still plenty of info being gathered as well by Fisher. They surely could hear that metal detector. Nope, not even required. Maple gets picked back up out of the bear trap and springs up to get the final kill of this round. Fisher continue to hold on.
It's a triple, by the way, for Maple. The opening nade, the kill down below onto Bucka to remove the pulse from play, and the due diligence from Fisher to make sure they cleared out of which they knew was there. You could have seen the proactivity from Maple instead go up the metal stairs and straight on towards that armory site. But instead, they want to make sure they clear out the bottom floor. They didn't know 100% there was a pulse. I believe they had at least a 90% inkling, and they knew of which it's position from the previous iteration of Armory Archives, but they make sure it's cleared out. I think that's the most important part about it. Bathroom Tellers, the next point of contact here for Kettering. They've won this as well. Should they lose this, I pose a question. Now, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, fellow, but I like to do that from time to time. If you lose here, do you go back to Armory Archives, back to Tellers, or do you go to the site you narrowly won?
Located by attackers.
Off the back of a mistake, that being ventilation.
I think we go here without question. I mean, there's so much room for error for Fisher when they're attacking Bathroom Tellers. It would just seem unwise not to go here again. Especially because it's still going to be 6-5 match point, series point, if they lose round number 11. So a lot of opportunities can be found for Kettering if they just manage to spot out, again, the weaknesses that Fisher have shown a couple times in this best of 3. Fisher, though, interesting to see them bring a little more hard breach now, having Maple on the book and bring those secondary hard breach devices, so it's not just off the back of Yali in case she just doesn't have enough Selmas for hatches, or if she is dead. Sometimes we have seen her on the opening desk, so that could be some potential to concoct up later. But so far, it's going to be a pretty calm round. Once again, more info being gathered by Fisher. They spot out that CCTV is clear. And although Kettering were not able to reinforce that double wall in lockers, there is a mute jammer on it, so no breaching charges could be used. But a skeleton key can just kind of ignore that jammer. Here comes the charge by Rob. Beezer there to assist.
Love that.
Gets the kill onto Bucka. And yeah, complete change is made by Fisher to make sure that Bucka cannot get jiggy with it.
Jiggy with it.
Activating shock mode.
I'm not sorry. Kettering on this defense, I thought it was fairly good. It could have been worse, let's put it that way. Fisher's attack clearing out the top floor room, but it's still Derp looking for verticality. The issue they run into is the fact that there's now information as to their whereabouts. They have switched to the UMP-45 this time around, considering verticality is less of a pressure point. Again, they're on the bottom floor, but the now question is, do they have not only the gun skill, of which we've seen many times over, but the other question comes to, do they have the lack of information for Fisher to play off of? The C4 misses. They've already used their prime point of contact in this round, and there's still 80 seconds left on it. Fisher in such a strong power position, dropping Derp as well. This is where you hold W, and Beezer seems to know it. They want to get aggressive on towards that Tachanka, of whom jumps over the deployable shield at nearly the worst possible time, is lucky to stay alive for the time being, but that Shimika launcher giving away their position, they should be cleared out, and they almost certainly will be. The skeleton key above, shoving them out of position. Oh, no. There's Beezer for the frag. Illusion dropped. Beezer on a triple, looking for another 4K, of which they've had at least one thus far today.
It's not an illusion nor a mirage here on this matchup, although you could be alluded to that with it being so hot on border. 2 versus 5 for Kettering. A tall obstacle to clear over, especially with so much favoring Fisher. You've got the verticality, you've got total site presence, you've got the smokes to obscure any chances of Kettering safely crossing over this thread.
No way!
Beezer, all 5 rack up for this guy. Doesn't matter if it's the MX4 Storm or the F2, he will put in the work to win these gunfights. And Fisher, 1 round off of overtime once again. Can they bring us to that fateful position, or will it be another 7-5 victory for Kettering?
Bro, the way he finds those last 2 kills as well, it's Amplify ever so eerily walking out of a smoke, and then Prismo's like, hello, and dies. Fisher shutting it down. Beezer shutting it down, goes from 6-7 at the beginning of the round to now 11-7 as Fisher bring us 1 away from a possible OT. But John, we've seen this scoreline before, quite literally, about an hour ago. It was Kettering 6, Fisher 5, trying to come back from, at that point, a 6-4 deficit, And this is not an advantageous position for them at all. It's the primary bomb site for Kettering. They are switching things up, most notably from the previous time they lost. So I like the dynamic defensive setup, but the question remains, will it work? The answer to be determined.
Kettering opting to go in through lockers. Honestly, with how effective Fisher was, more or less Beezer in that round, I can't really fault Kettering for that. That's kind of the one outlier is like, if you get pummeled on bathroom, maybe you don't want to go there a second time. So now they're opting to go through lockers, probably the second most pick site in Border, or at least it's evenly matched with bathroom policy. That site is pretty good nowadays. And Fisher, I would say they're already gathering info, but no, Derp is actually the one rocking that drone. Now a Mozzie pest for him. Could maybe set up some Nitro Cell play, perhaps. There's 3 C4s available, and a little bit of info off of those potential Mozzie pests, and also maybe the Prismas, perhaps, depending on where they're placed. Could definitely be interesting to see Kettering implement that small amount of info to work a Nitro.
I love the fact that Kettering are switching up their defense, though. I talked about this a little bit. I'll expound a minute amount. It's not only the information gain in Bucka, but it's the information removal and gain in terms of Derp. Fisher has been playing off of information to near perfection since they lost that 6th round. And Kettering, after picking up since 6th round, have really been caught off guard in multiple different instances of this map. Bucka trying to catch one off guard, that being Maple on the outside, faking the fact that they were hopping on a drone because they heard Bucka close, are now prepping a nade, trying to clear out the aforementioned alibi, of whom is perfectly fine and has retreated since we last saw them. Prismo, the only one to take damage thus far. With a minute 40 left, Fisher need to get on their horse because they're taking a little bit too long to get onto the site. There's a Gemini replicator to gain the information, the spray just barely missing onto Derp's head.
Well, but Maple still having one grenade. They could kill the guy half wall, but
way.
no, you just have to wait, Beezer! Derp gets a second one. Bucka off screen finds one as well for his troubles. Robe, you may have found the refrag, but it's way too late, my friend. The damage has already been done. Maple now working their way above can find one through metal detector. They're inside of small office. Hold on. This could be salvageable. I don't think the player behind Archive spots him. They have control of sight. Kettering, they have to go for a retake now. Sure, Maple's low on HP, but the diffuser, it's gone down. No, Maple, you've got to hold passive. Too low on HP to take that gunfight against Bucka. A wide swing by Robe gets the alibi down, but it's still a 2 versus 1. And a flank, it's a foot, but does he have info? He just might. The Jaeger spotted out. No way, Robe, you win that 1v3. Fisher goes to overtime. Brilliantly done by the Ayana.
There's no way they should be able to pick that up as well. The sledge on the flank, a 4K from Robe, and Fisher send us to OT. Kettering's defense is torn apart from 2 different angles. The main west balcony and the top of metal. The sledge only finding 1 kill, but it was the distraction and their presence alone that allowed them to get that diffuser down, and is now putting us into extra time here on Border.
God, I love Beezer when he hypes up his homies. Love to see that.
Protect your bombs from being defused
Anyways,
by attackers.
averting back to what we were trying to mention, yeah, Fisher just played out of their mind those last couple of rounds. I would say in particular Beezer, but no, that had a lot more to do with Robe in particular. Blockers now being attempted. We haven't seen Fisher on the defense in quite a long time, and with their composition, I think they're going to do a better job of probably holding on down through CCTV. Maybe they'll implement that same verticality that Kettering were doing on their defensive half. And once again, probably having someone be hyper-aggressive by east stairs, not having any, utility there, but just trying to take a gunfight early on. That might be the idea here for Fisher. But besides that, they're heading back to lockers once again, a site that they've picked 4 out of the 6 times. So Kettering, they do have a lot of good bookwork, unless something drastically changes here.
Attackers recovered the bomb diffuser.
Difference between the defensive setup of Kettering in the previous round and now Fisher's is Yali. That's it. And Yali's actually played the Kaid in previous iterations of this defensive side, so it's not completely out of the question to say this is up to preference, and they're not as impactful on wall denial because they're well aware of the fact that not only is Thatcher unbanned, but impact EMPs exist, so you might as well just employ the mute to deal with that possibility and move on from that. Also, Yeli has impacts and likes to get aggressive, so why the heck not the MP5K, or the MP5 alone, my apologies. will land a decent bit of shots onto Derp, but misses almost an entire clip onto a drone. I'm going to say this for the sole reason that I know Yali very well. Come on.
Well, the K has been removed from this MP5 because there's no killing to be found in CCTV, so Yali will fall back. That was a good play, though, I gotta admit, to not drop immediately and maybe bait out anyone from Kettering. Almost worked out, but now they'll move back around and maybe try to get themselves up construction stairs. That could be a good idea here if someone's on drone once again, as that's a very audible sound walking up any kind of staircase. And Prismo, he's died in this position before. He might be aware of it this time around. Yep, even a drone for good measure. Yali having to shoot it, and now waiting for someone to maybe overexpose themselves. Another player as well, stacked up, looking through that customs hatch that leads above in through CCTV. Kettering makes one false move. They could end up dying, but it goes the other way around. Illusion gets rid of Yali. One of your only roamers is now eliminated, and Kettering, like I mentioned earlier, they've got more room to breathe because of that. Way less pressure applied to them.
Pressure application here for Kettering has fallen off, not only from their defensive side, but I feel like into this full second half of play, now OT, really creating chaos, but the nade finds two. Roby and Cappy both stuck in that fountain position. It's going to be a Twitch drone to finish one of them off. Bees are finding a kill onto Amplify to really refrag, but it only does find one. Derp with the double kill to really close things out, but it's Beezer with a double of their own, and now a true 2 versus 2, as Fisher seemed to take whatever from the jaws of defeat and bring it out to seemingly near imperfection for Kettering. Prismo is found a down onto Maple, but I believe Beezer's baiting their teammate. No, they're not. 30 seconds left here in our first round of OT, and Prismo and Beezer, both of whom have fragged out thus far, need to clear one another out. The information's not there by any means here for Prismo, but they seemingly are aware of the fact that Beezer's towards the back corner of Archives, and they are indeed. The headshot landed, Beezer cut down, a double kill, all they will find in the round itself, and Kettering win the first round of OT, and once more will have match and series point.
And I think it was by Beezer not baiting his down teammate that gave the insight for Prismo that he couldn't be lockers, because why wouldn't you swing that angle?
Exactly.
And with there being no other safe place inside of Archives, he has to be near AC window. He has to be in that corner, perhaps. Really well done by Prismo, I gotta admit. Unless they had a drone, then that would make it a lot less cool, and just a really good one-for-one gunfight with some good knowledge in his back pocket. But still, well-needed round for Kettering, and they still have the option to take a timeout. Maybe they're going to opt to not to because they're lazy. I could see that. Some teams just don't like to go for timeouts because it doesn't really fit their style. But if they want to, they can. Interesting by Derp with the Rook selection. You know what? I like it. You know, Chief would like it. I want to finish here. I think Chief would like this because with there being less grenades, and with Fisher not bringing Twitch all too often, except towards the latter end of their attacking rounds, maybe they're hoping that their teammate only gets down from grenades. And also the P90 is not as bad as it used to be. It's a pretty decent gun in long range, but I don't feel like that unorthodox strat is really going to work unless Derp is just bringing Rook to shoot.
Can we take a first-person look at Rook? I want to know what scope is on that P90. That's my real question at this point, because I note aggression, and a 1.5 on that. Yeah, they took the ACOG away, unfortunately. That was my fun aggression when I played ranked. I would just pop on the P90 and go 2.0. But the P9, down to 100 HP, it's like the Rook armor basically doesn't exist, unfortunately, for Derp. They go from a, 3 health, 1 speed to a 1 health, 1 speed in the blink of gunfire.
Hate to see it, but at least Derp isn't dead. That's a bright side to look at. Fisher, I suppose if they really want to sound up against that P90, they could assume that it's either a Rook or a Doc. So that could be good information, perhaps. But Fisher so far don't really seem to care all that much. They're still opting to go in through triple wall, getting that control of offices, and then potentially heading their way into Fountain. Bucket is underneath. With that Bailiff, he can provide a lot of vertical coverage for the rest of his teammates to make this push a little more linear for Fisher. Not a good position for Fisher if they are not aware of that. And so far they haven't droned it, but it really is only a matter of time before they figure that out, either the easy way or the hard way.
The attacker's bomb diffuser has been dropped.
Yali learning the hard way that the P90 is indeed still a viable weapon, as Derp will bring their
unorthodox pick in the fray and look for another down square. I believe Maple's outside on that far south balcony. They are indeed, so they're fine for the time being. Also, the lack of aggression there for Derp actually does cost them. Maple walks inside and immediately finds the kill on towards the GIGN up. The Frenchman will go down, and Fisher bring it to a one-man disadvantage. Looking for 0 as the swing. Bucka lucky to be alive. How was that not a headshot? Usually I don't ask that question, but here I'm going to.
I guess maybe some of the hard walling on the top of metal was able to provide enough coverage there for Bucka, but I believe a grenade is there to greet him, so not alive and well for that much longer unless picked back up. The one convenient thing about the Rook armor, it's not a confirmed kill. You get rid of the down player, so Bucka gets revived with that extra armor. I guess that one minute play comes into effect, but still the guns are hot for Fisher. Rob gets rid of Illusion, almost full coverage here inside of Archives. But look at Prismo, the only full HP player, and he could potentially find some sort of kill, but they ignore Archives. Maple just hops in, another kill for the Sledge. Almost all 4 of them, but Rob snags it from him. A buddy ace, I believe, once again for Fisher this time, and they bring us the full distance on border.
They knew about Prismo. Prismo went from a crouch position to a prone position, and of all the actions you can do without moving, that's the number one that makes the most amount of noise and sound such a big point of contention in the game of Rainbow Six Siege. That one apparently giving over said information. They did not have a drone on Prismo either. They just strong swung them off the fact that they moved after they got that opening kill across towards the backside of the Archives table. It's Fisher again to condense onto the site, this time from 3 different angles. West main balcony, the top of metal, and fountain most importantly, and it's Kettering to not be able to do with any of it. Fisher, such a clean take, now go to bathroom tellers on the defensive side because Archives has been bad, to say the very least, for them. They'll look to win it and send us to Cafe on the secondary side of the 2 teams.
And now, after so long, Castle is in play. The first round for either team to bring him out. I'm not too sure if Kettering are going to spot that out. I think they did with Derp now opting to go onto the Sledge. A pretty heavy hard counter to a Castle pick, except for on some sites or some maps like Cafe where you can have a bit more range to your Castle barricades. But still, good consideration here for Kettering to make sure they have a couple of options to remove those choke points that Fisher want to keep throughout the whole round. Just a matter of if Fisher can win those gunfights potentially before the castle barricades get broken off, or if they can use them to at least fall back, since a lot of the roam presence has been able to be rather mobile in this second half here of the Best of 3 series. Derp already breaking down that break room doorway, but not opting to get too aggressive, making Maple have that first move, and it works like a charm for Derp. Can't say the same really for Maple, as they're already dead to rights.
Already an opener going their way. For some reason, there's an Electro Claw on the jail main wall. I don't think I've ever seen that, ever. And I play a crap ton of ranked, so I see unorthodox things all the time. But apparently it doesn't happen here. Anyway, Kettering are able to open things up and start their bottom floor pressure across the map, and this should clear out Yali. I think that's the main reason they had it down there, so Yali could be a little bit more safe on the southwest side of the map, but that being no longer the case, you'll have to frag out. And the C4 utilized, no, that was a breach charge utilized. I was about to say C4 utilized, there it is. Derp dies, it was prepped, and finally finds the kill. 4 versus 4 now, with just over a minute and a half remaining, means Fisher have the advantage, but only narrowly because of the lack of this utility on the defensive side.
And even with the Sledge gone, there's still several breaching charges available to Kettering, not only for the vertical, but also removing those castle barricades. Still plenty of potential here for Kettering to win this round outright if they can connect the dots in the next minute 10 or so. Just double checking to make sure no one is on this top floor now that reassurance has been gathered, so they begin to work their way into the building proper. And once again, start getting that vertical down with the breaching charges. Good failsafe, having a lot of that secondary utility, and that will now force Fisher to be a little more vulnerable on this extension. But honestly, at this point, Robe, he might just be here to die. There's really no point in falling back unless somebody drones him, giving him the time to move.
It's a long angle for Cappy, but Robe has yet to be cleared from the all-important ventilation position. Cappy out of that long angle.
has now been cleared, and Kettering find the man advantage with 35 seconds left. They start to aggress. Illusion on the outside of the site, Prismo on the far side of the map, and most importantly, it's Bucka and Amplify up above. 3 dimensions to this push, not only from the 2 floors, but from completely opposite sides of the map. They clear out the main desk position as Beezer is felled. Robe and Yali left alone as Yali finds her first on the round. Robe inside a site, also able to try and frag out. Illusion on the backside has not made the noise, finally does, is shot down, but not out. It's Robe in another clutch, a 1 versus 3, this time on the defensive side and this time on the Jaeger, but they're not on the site with the diffuser. They're finally trying to start to plant it down. Robe will look to aggress. The Ash seemingly hearing it. It's the Twitch to shut it down. It's Prismo to clear things out, and Kettering to take a 2-0 victory here up against Fisher Falcons.
And a close game for both teams as well. A 7-5 victory on Theme Park and an 8-7 win as well on Border. Couldn't really ask for anything better except maybe Cafe, but that would have been a long journey if we were to get there. Still, I'd have to say there is good potential for, I'd say, Fisher College. You know, they had a lot of really good and clear-cut rounds, but being a lot faster on the adaptability, that's going to be something to definitely look forward to them, especially with this meta being rather fluid in terms of trade potential. Again, you just have to be a very fast and reactive team. Some moments there for Kettering as well. I think the same thing applies, but it wasn't as big of an issue for them, hence why they came out today as the victors, 2-0. So not even a third map here today.
No, cafe not required. And that note about adaptability, the most important part about it was the fact that Fisher did not adapt enough on the first map to bring that momentum into the second. That was Kettering to really take the reins as they push forward. Yeah, it was 3-3 splits between the 2 maps. The most important part about it was Kettering looked more confident. Yeah, you had few instances of gun skill, great pop-offs from Beezer and Robe in specific scenarios, but you cannot rely on that clutch potential in every single matchup you play in order to just be in the game. If Beezer and Robe didn't exist, we wouldn't have seen OT. We may not have even seen double digits in terms of rounds of regulation. It could have ended 7-3, maybe 7-2, but luckily they had the fragging power. Unfortunately, they just did not have the staying power in the series.
And I think the only example you could draw to where that's a similar storyline for Kettering is probably Bucka. And even when he was like the standout player, especially on Theme Park, he was in a lot of death spots as Jaeger. So you don't even want to take that into consideration as something that could go really well. You're expecting to more or less waste util and maybe get a kill if you're lucky enough. So finding several in that position is just jarring as is. But I know Bucka can accomplish that kind of stuff, hence why we saw that today. But again, good showing by both Fisher College and also Kettering, as it is pretty much the beginning of the season. So I hope to see more from them. But Dan, do you have something else to say before we end off?
I have one more note, because Yali put this on Twitter earlier, and I needed to say it. She says, quote, "Ayo, I'm playing on stream, lol. Come roast me in the chat, but not my teammates, they're goats." So I'll live up to that. Yali, you're bad. No, I'm kidding. I know, but I just had to say it because I've been wanting to do that for 2 hours.
Fair enough. Well, shoutouts to everyone who's been alongside with us here in the chat. Shoutouts to our observer, Unnamed Gamer, and Peak as well, going through the trenches with us. We're not done tonight, though. We still have one more game on the main stream, so we'll take it to a quick little break and be back to get that matchup ready as quickly as possible. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more R6 action here at the NECC.